to
Yep.
what you can and
Can't say bomb on an airplane.
Right.
Boom, 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 skibby doop, I think we're good. And then I get to say, my man Armand in the house. Yes. What a journey we've had.
We've been doing this for a long time, brother.
So if we actually, because I saw Papa Hutzel like the post today. If we go back, for those that are listening, you have no clue how dear this man is. Was it 10? How long? I'm like bad with timestamps. Like we got to think close to 10 years ago. Because
more.
Really?
I started dating my now wife,
Shelly,
in December 2012.
Okay.
And we had already been friends for a couple of years, at least at that point. My son was still in high school
when we
met, because I started going to Kokomo's. That's how we met.
So for those that are listening, it's not all about you today, people. Today is about Armand and I. We haven't seen each other in the flesh in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to Kokomo's, and it was a newer spot that had opened and taken over from the Beanery back in the day. Center of Flagler. For those that Mama Hutzel and Papa Hutzel, we love you guys.
Dearly.
So I'm in there, and here I go, and just like anything else, there's that weird rhythm of like, where am I going to sit? What am I going to do? Because I already knew in my head, I'm going to make this my spot.
As did I, yeah.
Were you going to the Beanery at the time?
No.
I was trying to, but it had already kind of been seasoned to where like they had people there. You know, like when places are claimed.
Yeah.
There had been enough places claimed, and I remember it was evolving. So here comes a new spot, and I remember this is going to be my home, and you're there every day. Every day.
Monday through Friday.
In that corner.
Yep.
You walked into the inside of Kokomo's, right to the right, and here this man is in the corner typing like a banshee, and no one really knew what you were up to. I mean, if someone was willing to ask, you were very personable, but no one really knew. Yeah. And of course, we fall in love, and that's when you started writing those series for Flagler Beach, which was amazing. What a concept!
Yeah.
And I was honored enough to be in it.
You were mentioned, Chenzo. I needed the head of the family, which is the New Jersey mobsters.
Yes.
And I'm like, Chenzo, I mean, what a perfect name to put in this book. So Chenzo is still part of the Dirty Deeds series.
He's still moving, huh?
Which book 10 just came out not too long ago. It'll be 12 books. And then I got a brand new series that actually comes out starting Saturday called the First Coast Fiction series. And again, there's a mention of Chenzo in those books.
So he's not sleeping with the fishes yet.
No, not
he's
yet.
Still making it.
He's not yet.
So for those that are listening and you want to either get to know this man better or just enjoy him, that's where I met him. And it's been 10-ish plus years ago. I fell in love with you, and you cultivated a dream come true for a lot of authors, artists, etc. You went straight full-time author very shortly. Did it happen then?
I was full-time. I was full-time then.
You were already full-time in there.
Okay. But I had just started full-time, like literally over the summer before. I had gone full.
You took the leap.
I took the leap, and then my son was still in high school.
Okay.
Up here in Palm Coast.
Right.
So every morning I would get up and I would drive him. We were in Ormond Beach.
Okay.
So I would drive him up A1A, drop him off at school, and I needed a place
to
stay. And for a little while, I was sitting like I was going to Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
You know, in Palm Coast, or I was finding like just random spots, but I needed Wi-Fi,
right?
And it was uncomfortable sitting in the car. And then I had remembered I'd gone to another place I won't mention up here, which is I believe still around. The owners have changed a couple of times, and I wrote there every day, Monday through Friday.
Right.
And then at one point, the owners, who aren't the owners now, had basically made a comment to the waiter and the waitress that were there that. What this guy's drinking way too much coffee. Stop giving him so much coffee. And I was like,
what?
Screw you. I'm out of here.
Right.
So then I remembered Kokomo's because I had done an interview for the local paper a few months before, and that was where we had done it. We were doing a book signing in town. And I was like, let me go over there. Had a really good vibe, and it wasn't packed or anything. And went over there, and I mean, I had a cowabunga, and I mean, the sandwich was to
Remember
die
those?
for. Oh my God, I had every week I would
I
have
know.
at least one of them. And that was my routine from like 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. While my son was in school, I was just there working and writing. And then I got to, you start to meet everybody,
Mhm.
which is great.
Would you? I would have bet you would, just like me. I give so much of my networking and my awareness came from being there.
Mhm.
I didn't realize it at the time that it was going to be so influential for people to be able to put a face to the name, this, that, and the other. And I mean, I speak on the behalf of all of us that are in this independent world. There's never a day where you could just say, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Like, I don't got money falling from the sky.
Right.
So back then it was such a wonderful way of networking without networking.
Yeah.
Because it was, I loved it. It was also just like with you, being able to see you on the daily and the hugs and and just the camaraderie of like, how the hell you doing? You know, and there were days that we weren't doing well, and there were days that you were, and through your successes. But here we are now. It's been amazing for those that are listening. When you click on his Facebook page, also I heard you got a web guy.
I do. I got a really good website.
And we got a new website coming, and you got to check all the stuff. You're so busy.
Yeah.
You stay very, very busy, man.
I have to. It's for me. It's I always say it's the fear of going back to retail management.
Because it's what keeps you.
It's what keeps. It's
was that your original OG background?
20 years of retail management.
I don't think I ever knew that. And if I did, thank God I forgot, because I know those. I know that world. Wow, you had 2 decades of retail.
Yeah.
I did it for a handful, and I remember. And for those that are listening that may be in that industry, there's no shame in it, but it's tough.
You all hate
and especially I know it's the people that are so rude. Yeah. I mean, that was probably my rudest experience of humans.
Yeah.
Like, there's just like this unspoken rule of like, customers always right. And
if it wasn't for the customers, the job would have been
great. Where were you? What was the?
I worked at a lot of.
You just were in that.
I was in that. Unfortunately, I was in that. I sold shoes for many, many years.
Wow.
I grew up in New Jersey. I started there. I've been down in Florida since 2001. I started working for. I don't even want to mention.
Nope, don't know.
So a department store.
Got you.
For a few years, and then I went into the world of dollar stores. I won't mention which one.
Yep.
And that's 80 hours a week and 6 days a week. And somebody's coming. And I worked at the store, one of the stores closest to the racetrack in Daytona.
Oh, geez.
So every time there was a race, the owners, the CEO would come down and tour the stores. So you're working like 4 or 5 straight days, like literally living in the store.
I guess too, for those let's take it. Can we take it chronologically? So Jersey was home.
Jersey was home.
And what was your timestamp when you moved to Florida?
2001.
What was the link?
I was married at the time.
Okay.
We had just had our 3rd kid. Property taxes were through the roof, ridiculous in Jersey. I was getting sick of the snow. I was getting sick of all that.
The normal northern
stuff.
Grind.
And the wife and I at the time, we were having some problems. And of course you figure, it was the typical, well, let's have a kid. That'll make everything better. And for some reason it never does. And let's get out of here. Let's go somewhere else, because I was working, I was doing like management or assistant manager jobs at like $8.50, $9 an hour at that point. And we weren't doing it. She was a waitress. And I said, we can do anything right now. Let's go.
Right.
And my brother was living in Ormond Beach.
Wow. Go figure.
He had moved down because he had come years ago. He had come down for spring break, and he saw Metallica down here.
Yes.
And he was like, you know what? This place is great. I'm going to move. And he wasn't even working at that point. So he moved down here and immediately started working for the city.
Okay.
And so he said, come down.
So he was kind of a little bit of the link of like why
he was here
why
for
this area.
He was here almost a year. And he said, just come down.
Give it a shot.
So on 4th of July in 2001, I drove down by myself, stayed with him. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do retail. I don't want to sell shoes. I don't want to do any of this. I'm going to work at a hotel or whatever.
Right.
But the pay is so vastly different down here. I mean, so is the cost of living. And I'm going in, for for jobs at a hotel or whatever, and they're offering me like $9 an hour as a management, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Right.
So hung out with my brother 4th of July, and then like on that Monday, I go and I buy the paper, like, let's do this old school, and it opened up, and boom, right there is a big store, footwear management.
Go figure.
And I'm like, I'll go interview and do it, and I'll interview a bunch of places. And I walked in and I interviewed, and I have all this experience.
Right.
And they immediately hired me, and they hired me. And I said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. This was the salary I was making
at home.
And I know it's going to be, but is there anything else? And they said, listen, with your bonuses and with your own sales and blah, 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 you could actually make more than that.
Right.
So I took the job, and I interviewed on Monday. I went for my drug test on like Tuesday, and like
you were in
Friday, I was there training.
Wow.
And that was a couple of years I did that. And I hated every minute of it. Especially when the races. So I was in the mall across from Daytona, the Speedway, which is brutal. I mean, on race day, there's about 1 billion people in the store, and nobody's buying anything. They're just killing time. Yep. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes before the race, we're empty for like those 3 hours or whatever. And but you're there from like 5 a.m. until midnight or later on those days, and it was brutal. And I had always written. I mean, I'd been writing.
I was going to say, had you growing most, and I consider writing an art, and so it's an artist. Had you always grown up with this? Had you like written before, like in growing up in adolescences, things of that nature? Yeah.
Since I was 12.
Go figure.
I read my first Dean Koontz book at 12, and that was it for me.
You knew.
That was literally it. I had my first short story published when I was 18.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Yeah.
So you always had this attraction towards writing, and your first piece of content published was at 18.
18, yeah.
So it was probably just like anybody's hopeless romantic's dreams as an artist to be a full-time writer.
That was it for me. I wanted to be Dean Koontz. I wanted to be Stephen King. I wanted to be, kind of thing. And it was always, and it's that unrealistic of, I got my first short story and I literally made like $5 off this. Should I start thinking about yachts yet? Maserati, what kind of cars should, like
down payments on a Porsche.
18 years old. Like this is the greatest thing ever.
I got it, Ma.
I got it. And then you get like 10 rejections, right after that and stuff. So, it was definitely, no matter, what I did, I was, my first, so I've had 2 divorces. Knock on wood. The first one, it was for her, me getting up in the middle of the night and writing. It was like I had to sneak it from her. And she said,
wow.
I almost wish you were watching porn. I almost wish you were
doing
having
something.
An affair with an actual person instead of with this. And she hated it. And so did the second wife. It was time away from them.
But is it because being able to fall in love with you the last decade plus, I would imagine because you've always been a very no bullshit too. Like, I don't feel like you've ever had, especially as you've cultivated this lifestyle, a lot of bullshit. Meaning, like, I don't think, and my point of saying that is, I would imagine it wasn't like playing a video game to you, like writing. I bet I've seen you write, and you go somewhere.
I'm in the zone.
You go somewhere, and I can almost guarantee you, as a companion, it's like I said, I could sit here and play a video game and probably still entertain somewhat of a dialogue, or it's not that important. It's not, but you go somewhere, so you're immersed.
It's always been a job for me.
Right.
As much as I hated retail, I still did the best. I mean, when I was working, I had the best sales. Right. I had the best team. I mean, I did all that, even though I hated all of it.
You still did your job.
I still did my job, and I did my job to the best of my ability. And it's the same thing with writing for me. Am I the best writer? Heck no. Right. But I'm gonna
give it 100%.
The best story I possibly can at this moment, and realize that I'm only getting better after 30 something years of continuously churning out stories. I'm only getting better.
What is your number count right now, book wise? Because I had no idea you were as many as you were till I started putting them on the website.
220 something, I think.
It's amazing
stories right now.
And one of the things I fall in love with you every time we do talk, because that's what when I have a lot of being someone that helps other people get their business or product seen. There's a lot of new creators. I get a lot of people taking that leap, and they're nervous as shit. And I'm going to steal what you said today, as far as I've done it inadvertently, not knowing I do it on purpose. But my fear of, and once again, there's no knocking a job. I'm not one of these like Gary V guys, like fuck your job. And there's no shame in a job, people. But like, if you have a hunger to do something that can drive revenue, whether it's service, product, then try it. I strongly urge try it. But that urge of not wanting to go back, I still feel like it was yesterday. It's like, you ever have those nightmares once in a blue moon of like, you got a test tomorrow school? Like, I can remember like it was yesterday, working a job that I wasn't passionate about, didn't want to be there, and had that. And that's what I mean about those people that are maybe working a job that there's no shame in the job. But if you really hate it and detest it, give yourself an outlet. And especially in this day and age, there's almost always to bring in some type of incremental revenue.
Right.
So here you are. And I love that you use that every day as like a fuel to be, it's like conducive. It's not debilitating of like, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to that life. And so here you are now, you've got 200 plus published pieces of content, which is mind numbing. That's amazing. You also have your podcast, right?
Right. I have to do my own podcast.
Right. And then you've got, I want to get, what else do you got going on? Because you do a lot of other guest stuff too. I've seen you, like, heard you on other things before.
Oh yeah. I love, well, as like my wife says, I love talking about myself. So like, I'm literally anywhere I can get out there and talk. And it's not necessarily like, I want to talk about my books.
Right.
It's just, I want to talk. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about what I'm passionate about.
Right.
And I want to get to know the host, and so, and obviously we've known each other for a long time. So this is an easy one.
Right.
But, just really just getting out there, you're selling books, but you're not selling. If I sat here and said, let's just talk about my book.
Okay.
Buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. No one's going to buy that book. If I mention my book in passing and people watch this for an hour and go, wow, that guy was pretty cool. Right. I want to check out. He's teased me. Right. It's a mystery of he says he has 200 and something releases on Amazon, but he's not going to list. I'm not listing 200. Right. Let me go and let me
do my own.
Let me do my own research. And that's a potential reader for me.
Right.
I would rather 10,000 people listen to this thing and 10 people actually make the effort to click on Amazon and find me and buy a book.
Right.
Because chances are, if you buy a book, you're going to buy several books from me. You're going to start buying my backlist. You're going to start sending me emails. You're going to go on the website and contact me and say, hey, I like this type of thing. I love crime thrillers.
Right. What
can you suggest? I love horror books. What can you suggest?
Right.
So that's for me, that's the fun of it. And, I'm to the point now where I can write whatever I want. I'm still, obviously I'm aware of what's going to sell and what's not going to sell. Right. I'm not going to just go, hey, I'm going to write something.
Write about dolphins.
I'm writing about dolphins. I'm going to write 400 more books about dolphins. But I put more pressure on me than anybody. And I think that's also what drives my wife laughs. She's like, can you take a day off?
Right. You're your hardest boss.
Yeah. I mean, and the great part is I'm creative. So the money part is like, I have no idea.
Right.
So I keep track. But my wife is the one who set up this Excel spreadsheets on all that stuff.
She's the money.
Yeah. And it's like the other day I'm like, hey, I got $1,000 in PayPal.
Right.
How much do you want? She's like, well, give me 500. We can put it towards your Amex card,
right,
which is paying for your ads every month. But otherwise I would have no idea. I would like go, oh, I have $1 million in PayPal, and I can buy some Funko Pops with it, or a T-shirt.
Right.
So I have no clue. But that's the good part is she has a career.
She levels you out, yeah.
And all the money, all the bills, all that stuff is paid through her money. So all of my money is just circulating.
The oil to the machine.
Yeah. And it's, spend money to make money.
Right.
And that's exactly. I'm doing $500 a month in ads for these books.
Right.
But it's churning
course.
way more than that. And that's kind of, for me, for a long time, being broke.
Yep.
That was a hard concept for me to go, I can't spend I don't want to spend any money.
I'm with you. Yep.
But then you look at it and you go, you know what? I'm making way more. I'm making more money now yearly than I did in retail.
Imagine that.
And that's, something I thought was never going to happen.
When you kind of like the Kokomo era, because it correlates with me. When you were writing then, had this, for those that are listening to, your genre of book writing is more novel based, right? Horror, crime, nonfiction. Yeah. And you got like, had you always been that way? Because I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but being not familiar with being an author, I would say it's almost kind of harder to write because it's fiction based and you've got to be the creator. You can maybe extract realism stuff, people, names, places, but like you're not writing about, you may be even talking about factual events, but it's got your twist, your timestamp, etc. What had you always been that way? Like this word artist of like creativity of stories and ideas and or did you have to go somewhere to like train yourself that way? Because your writing is incredible. So like
I've always been a listener. I've always listened to conversations. And the Flagler Beach Fiction series is a great example. I'm sitting in Kokomo's in my little corner there. And I was kind of between projects. I just finished a book like a day or two before. And I write a ton of short stories. So it's like, let me write a short story. And at the table next to me, we're at the door.
Yep. The little one.
The little one there is an older couple. I mean, like in there, maybe their late 70s.
Wow.
And I start listening and eavesdropping, and she's getting mad at him. And she's saying, I don't want your kids at my house anymore. One of my dishes is gone, or a cup or something.
Right.
And I'm thinking, his kids got to be like in their 50s.
Right.
Like her kids are older than me at that point.
Right.
And I don't want them at my house anymore. And then she basically berates him, and then she breaks up with him. She's like, I don't want to see you anymore.
Aha.
So he stands up and he goes to walk, and she says, "Oh," and she taps on the ticket. So he takes out his wallet and he takes out $20 and he drops it on the table and he leaves. And then I see her smiling, like she's beaming, like she's so happy with herself. And I thought, what a bitch.
Right.
I'm going to write a horror story. I'm going to kill this lady. And then as I start writing, I'm like,
this is great.
It doesn't have to be a horror story. Like that's the story of these people. And I said, wow, I mean, so many people coming in and out of Kokomo's all the time. I'm like, I could write a series of like what I call beach reads. There doesn't have to be murders. There doesn't have to be, there's no horror in this. It's just people.
Right.
It's just people stories. And I pulled most of that the Kokomo's book. Most of that was real life stuff. And then I did a series of 7 books, all set in different places in Flagler. Most of them aren't even there anymore. On each day. So it was like the next day, and then the next day, the next day. And those characters were in and out of those stories.
Right.
Mark Woods Tiki, who was working bartending at
Golden Lion
at the time. So he became Woody character in there. And so like a lot of actual people are in those books. Like I changed a lot of it, but not enough. Like you would read and you would go, oh my God, that's me. Or I know that guy.
Right.
I know this, the guy who wanders around on the pier at 2 a.m. You know?
Yes.
And so for me, that was a lot of fun writing those books literally there, and then going to the various places and saying, hey, I'm writing this series.
Right.
I want to write about your place, a fictionalized version of Flagler Fish Company or J&J Fitness or whatever. And so that was really a lot of fun. And it was like the first time I really went out of my comfort zone of not writing a crime book or a horror book.
So those were your first. Yeah, you're immersed.
Yeah,
you were there.
Yeah, and that was great. And I worried that my readers wouldn't respond to it.
Oh, because I was changing.
At this point, I was doing 90% horror books and like 10% crime, but could be also categorized as horror stories. People were dying in every story. and they loved it. I mean, my core readers, I didn't sell a billion copies,
right?
But my core readers loved it.
Enjoyed this.
And I was selling print copies all over Flagler Beach.
Right.
So it really, for me, it was that spark of going, you know what? I can write other stuff. I can write what I'm passionate about and what I want.
Right.
And I've ghostwritten books for people, and I hated it.
For those that don't know, that's when you write for someone,
right?
But they're shit, but
they give you the idea,
right? But you write it, but they get the they get the glory. Do you get reps on that? Like, how does that work?
I'll get a set X number of dollars,
and that's it.
But
you don't even get your name or anything out there. That's why it's ghostwriting.
That's why it's ghostwriting.
Wow.
Unfortunately, for those who don't know, most celebrity books are ghostwritten.
Go figure.
About 95% of
no
those
way.
Are anything you've read, either there's a name on it, like you'll read a book and it says, whoever, Derek Jeter with somebody. That somebody wrote the book and they interviewed Derek Jeter for some of the facts and stuff. But a lot of times it's just like, Jersey Shore Snooki. She didn't write that book.
Right.
I know the person who actually wrote that book.
Go figure.
Who actually ghost wrote that book. And it was based on not even talking to her. It was based on interviews and stuff.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of that. And I wrote for a company for many years that did like B movies.
But it didn't stick for you, right? You didn't enjoy it?
I didn't enjoy it at all. I wrote a military romance.
Oh, okay.
Navy SEAL book. Navy SEAL, woman falls in love with a Navy SEAL
kind
of thing. It was awful for me to write that. And my wife was like, you got to stop doing these. I'm like, the money is so good.
Right.
The money
it's like a guarantee. It's not like your book where you have to hope it works. Right. And then if it does,
it's literally here's X number of dollars.
It's a guaranteed contract.
I need 40,000 words by this date.
Right.
And here's the concept.
But this was like, it was work, not even pleasure at any point.
It was. And then, of course you can't ever say what you got to sign a
non-compete or whatever.
All that. And then it came out, and like 2 weeks later, I check on it, and it was number 1 in all of Amazon.
Holy shit!
Not even in the romance or the military romances, but all of Amazon. That book, so they made a ton of money off of it. But I made good money off of it. But I didn't want to do the second. I said they try to throw a lot more money. I said I can't.
It just wasn't pleasurable.
It wasn't, and I had other books that I wanted to write.
So are you kind of out of that scene now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm to the point where I don't need the money.
Right.
I don't need the aggravation. There's a lot of cooks involved in doing that, where you're on a conference call.
This guy these wizards.
Yeah, 5 or 6 people.
I know those.
And they're all. I'm on a conference call for 2 hours, and they're telling, no, this would be better in this scene. And I'm like, you guys aren't writers. You have no idea what you're doing. You guys are movie guys, but you're not really movie guys. I mean, so it was that was really challenging for a while, but it also that paid the bills.
Right.
Like that wiped out all of my debt. Before I met Shelly, my wife now, I had wiped out all my credit cards. I paid the card
by means of the ghostwriting.
By means of doing all that. And literally with like my last, whatever it was, $500, $600, I bought her a flat screen TV because she had just built her house. And I bought that, and she says, when we break up, you're not getting this TV back. I said, yeah, I understand.
I love her. So for those that are listening and may be interested in this profession, so to speak, would you say that's, I don't want to say easy, but that's an outlet to get plugged into if they feel they how does something like that work though? So like, do you kind of have to have some street rep to even be asked to? I was going to say, you can't just
there are a couple of sites where you can literally, like, you could go on right now and go, hey, I want to ghostwrite. What do you have? And you might be able to write like erotica,
right?
Like short stories and stuff.
Just
but they want to see samples. They want to see, because they can't say who did you work for, because you can't say.
Right.
And if you do say, nobody wants to work with you because you got a big mouth.
Right.
So it's they want to see writing samples. They want to see that you have on those sites you have a rating, with you've done this for multiple things. Like I have a buddy who for years he just did ghostwriting, and he just ignored his own stuff. And while he was making a ton of money, he wasn't building up his own
stuff.
And now he's kind of trying to play catch up.
Right. Have you noticed too, being that you've been in this now for long enough to where you have such a loyal audience, probably, that if you do take a hiatus for too long, maybe, then your audience be almost like, in theory, like if I stop doing the podcast for super, super long and then it's like no one gives a shit because it's like would you say for those that are out there writing, like stay somewhat consistent if you take or does it, like, do you think it matters if it's someone?
I think it 100% matters.
Okay.
And I tell people, because I mentor a lot of newer writers, phone calls, emails, whatever. And one of the things I always say, which is what I wish I had done. And again, all my advice is based on stupidity on
your
my
mistakes,
own part, my
best
mistakes.
Wisdom.
And one of the things I wish I had done was just be consistent with my releases, with everything, and not immediately write something, get it edited, and put it out today. I wish I had spread, because I had years where, like January, February, March, I had like 15 releases, all jam-packed together.
And then you went through a drought.
3 months of nothing while I was working on the next thing.
And you could have spread them out 3 at a month. I see what you're saying.
And the Amazon algorithms is, as long as you have every 30 days to 6 weeks of a new release in.
They like that.
They like that. And then they'll keep promoting your stuff.
Interesting.
So you know, and as a reader, you don't want to, I love authors, but I don't want to buy 5 books from them today.
Right.
And then I have to wait 6 months for the next.
You forget about them.
I would rather buy every month you're putting out a new book in a different series, and I'm buying that. So it's the consistency. And you try to set that in the realistic, set that in the beginning and go, you know what, I'm only writing 2 books a year. But write those 2 books every year. Right. And put those 2 books out every year. Or say, I'm going to have something released every month. Well, then consistently
stay on that. Have you noticed too? Have you, when you see a book or some type of genre that's even more niche, let's just say, like even that you saw such a craze for it that you hovered more around that to satisfy your audience? Or are you more like, I don't really care what they like more, I'm just going to keep, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, let's just say, book X came out and you saw it was a huge conversation piece. It was a big, online, this, that, and the other. And because there was such a draw and demand for it, have you ever gone back to the drawing board and piggybacked off of that story to keep it? Or are you more like, whether it's there or not, I'm going to keep this series? Like, how do you paint this canvas? It's
a business. I mean, you look at it, and I have a couple of books that I really, really, when I wrote it, I'm like, this is my book. Like, this is going to be the book. This is the one that people are going to be talking about. And they bombed. Isn't it funny how it works that way? And so there's never another one. And every now and then you get somebody who messages, oh, is this book going to have a sequel? And, no, because I didn't even pay back. I see what you're saying. What people don't understand is it costs for the cover art. It costs for the formatting. It costs for the editing. It costs
to publish the whole thing.
The whole thing. So you're putting out thousands of dollars up front of your own money and hoping you can at least make that back or at least break even. And I keep track of all that. Right. I keep track of every book I've ever published and dime in, dime out.
Do you calculate your time as an artist? No. That's too arbitrary, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't, when people even ask me, like, what's your hourly rate? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even really know.
Well, I'm not, it's not like I'm sitting down and writing for a straight hour anyway.
Right.
I do 15-minute bursts.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do what the joke was, I call it the Mondo Method.
Yes.
And it's because
that's your podcast too.
The Mondo Method podcast. Yeah. That's where the podcast name came from. And I've been doing this for about 8 or 9 years now. And it's at the top of the hour, you write for the first 15 minutes.
Okay.
And that's it. As many words as you can get down. Don't think, no editing, nothing. Just write.
Just go.
Just write like this is the last time you're ever going to write. And at that 15-minute mark, then you stop. And I mean, a lot of times I'm in midway through a sentence, which I love, because then you're like, what comes next?
Right.
And then for that next 45 minutes, I get a cup of coffee. I go to the bathroom. I'll do something. I'll read whatever. I do anything else, but that story is in the back of my mind. And at the top of the next hour, 15 more minutes. And I get about 600 to 800 words in that time.
And then you force yourself to stop, even if you're flowing? I
don't care. I'm when it's 15 minutes, I'm going to stop.
How did you cultivate this? By just trial and error? Were you burnt out for going like 3 hours.
You go for 3 hours and I'm writing 1,000 words in 3 hours.
And now you're doing 600-ish in 15.
Yeah.
And you've noticed it keeps your creativity.
It pushes me to go, you only have this amount of time to write this. To write
so you're
this
almost kind of
page.
like,
Yeah.
I see.
So,
But you didn't always do that.
No. I had interviewed Jonathan Maybury,
Wow.
who is a huge author.
Yep.
And he does at the top of the hour for 45 minutes, he writes.
That's his thing.
And then the last 15 minutes, he plays on Facebook or whatever.
Right.
And I tried it, and I realized that about the 20-minute mark, I was starting to struggle a little bit doing this. So I was like, let me do 15 minutes. Let me see if 15 minutes works. And immediately I was like 800 words, 800 words, 800. And I was doing like 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 words and only doing those little 15-minute blocks.
Right.
And so for me, that was like the light bulb of, I don't need to sit from 9 to 5
and like,
and
make
try to crank out
10,000
words today.
Yeah.
I need to do this at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 1 o'clock. 3 times a day. If I hit 2,000 words, I'm super happy. If I can get, my goal every day is 1,096 words.
That's it, huh?
That gives me 400,000 words for the year. If I do 1,370 a day, that gives me 500,000 words.
Wow.
So the most last year was the most I ever wrote was 479,000 words I wrote in my fiscal writing year.
It's amazing. It's amazing how this artistic genre has such a mathematical rhythm to it. Have you noticed that you vibe better at night versus up morning or afternoon, or it's irrelevant? You just hit your Mondo Method minutes, or do you like?
So I do the Post-it method where I have to get up in the morning. Coffee's got to come first.
100%. And
then I take my Post-it note and I say 9 to 10 email, 10 to 10:15.
Oh, you jot your day out per day?
I do my entire day. So I know if I'm doing, I'm going to be here. I block out the drive time. I block out all of that stuff. And so when I get home this afternoon, I'll see what you got to do. I know what I have to do. And I do Twitch. I write on
I love that.
A Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. on those 3 days. I write a brand new short story off the top of my head.
Wow.
All I have is the title of the story. So I'm literally like, and there's people in the chat, and there's people, talking to me, engaging me, and I love that. And so I don't really do the Mondo Method then. But my whole thing is, all right, I want to get to the next page.
Right.
I want to write that page, which is like 500 words.
Right.
And a lot of times, like, I might write 2,000 words in that hour and a half or whatever. I mean, I might and finish a story. And there's been days when I write like 600 words in the hour because we're talking about bands from the 80s, or
you get caught into
you get caught into that, and it's fun, and it's people seeing me on webcam and seeing literally on the screen
the process. They get to see the actual verbiage.
They see
Oh,
and I'll read. All of a sudden, I'm typing and I'm reading as I'm typing. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. And they see the process.
Wow.
And it's not just writers that are on there with me. It's also readers. It's also a couple people that dig all my stuff, and they're like, we get to read this literally as you're creating it over like the next hour or so.
Isn't it interesting for those that are listening? I've learned this more recently than ever, being in the digital space. There seems to be, and this isn't anything profound, that have been YouTube content creators for a long time. The magic number seems to be like 10 years, believe it or not. Whether you take Video Game Nerd, all these guys that you watch, that whoever it is that you fancy, and it's a content creator, and there's that illusion that we play on ourselves, like, must be nice. This guy's just sitting here. And it's like, they don't realize that a lot of this has been, like, for instance, even with this, I'm kissing 3-4 years of doing this. I'm up to X amount of up, and I'm still nowhere near numbers that I would love to see when it comes to Rogan and this, that, and that. Yeah. But you look at some of these guys, like, oh shit, like Rogan's been doing this for 15 years. Like you don't realize that it takes so long.
It's that overnight success.
Yes.
That took you 15 years to get there.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
And then I've realized too that some of the people, like, I don't even know why, but in the last probably net 30 days, I've been watching this guy. I think his name's Craigslist Hunter, but that's his old school handle because no one really uses Craigslist anymore. But anyways, he's got this channel where he has it's like a used store, like a pawn shop almost.
Right.
But his demeanor, his voice, his character is so attractive to enjoy to watch that, just like what you were saying, I would suggest anyone out there that's contemplating becoming a content creator, and you go, well, who's going to care about my shit? You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, maybe they're not even interested in reading your literature or even reading books in general, but they're enjoying your, it's like hanging out with you.
And that's what, right. And that's
interesting.
And that's the part of it that I didn't realize was going to happen. Because I'll get people who just drop into the feed and they're like, what are we doing today? Or they'll jump in and they're quiet.
Right.
You get a lot of just people that are just
hanging out.
And then all of a sudden, I'll start talking about, it's like, oh, and in this story, listen, I'm going to put the band Overkill in here, and this part is, I actually saw them at Birch Hill on this date, so we're gonna do a fictionalized version of something, and somebody will go, oh my god, I'm in Belgium and I saw them last year, kind of thing, and then you just go back and forth with people with that, which is amazing. Like, you're literally reaching people all over the world in real time, and you have no idea who's coming in. Because at first it's like, I'm going to have like 10 people in here.
Right.
Nobody's going to follow me. And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I'm at 60 something people within a few months. And I'm getting paid. I'm getting money for this.
Isn't it incredible?
To run the ads and everything. It's that.
Right.
And it's a different crowd from like my Patreon people.
Right.
You know, I do like a Tuesday question every week. And anybody can go in there and answer it. And it's this, you know, what's the best meal you've ever had? I mean, it's just random.
But it generates content.
And it's that, you know, 200 best questions to break the ice kind of thing. And I'll just throw a random one in there. And it's amazing the different people that I have no idea who you are, but you're coming in because you saw it.
Yep.
And we're having this big conversation. And a lot of times the fun part is when they're like, oh, you're a writer. I didn't know you were a writer.
See?
Because I'm not shoving it down your throat. Right. And then they're like, suggest a book.
Right.
Okay, well, what are you into? Because I probably wrote something that I hope you would like.
Right.
And so that, for me, that's the fun, and it's those little grabs like that one-on-one grab. Yeah, I would love to put a book out, and I sold 1 million copies of a book. That would be amazing. But I like that. I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna talk to you, and the three of you are gonna buy a book today, and tomorrow 3 more people, and tomorrow 3 more, and that's how it builds. Because I can see my numbers, my Amazon numbers, and I can see where, they bought book 1 of Dirty Deeds.
Right.
Okay, so 2 or 3 days later, I get a little bump on 2, then a little bump on 3.
Yep.
I'm not selling book 1. I'm selling book 1 through 10.
Right.
So I'm not selling you a $2.99 book. I'm selling you $30 worth of just on that series. So I got to grab you with that first one.
Right.
And the thing is not to say, hey, here's my new book, buy my book. Hey, this is, you don't do that.
Now, I got to ask, because this is what keeps me, it's like currency to my soul, vulnerability time. In this span of being this independent, have you, for those that are listening that are contemplating take the leap or in the leap, and they're doing their work, they're doing something they find passionate, but not seeing a lot of, let's just say, financial success. Had you ever come close to hitting like the fuck it button where you're like, I'm done with this?
I've hit that many times. So there's a very big thing we all talk about, was imposter syndrome, and that will beat the hell out of you. And it does me. I mean, not that I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm going to quit, but to the point where, why am I, you question why am I doing? Like, I'm always going to write. I'm always going to create and stuff, because that's my passion. That's me. I have a couple of days in a row where I don't write, like when I'm sick, and I'm miserable. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I'm miserable. I'm still working.
So you literally write every day.
Every day. And then other days where I'll take off. There are days when I don't feel well.
Right. But when you're in imposter syndrome hits,
that's bad. I mean, a lot of creative people deal with depression and different things. I'm diagnosed bipolar. I don't take anything for it, because when I was taking for it, I couldn't create.
It was just messing with you.
I was just staring into space like an idiot. So I deal with that, the peaks and the valleys and stuff like that. And my wife, after 10 years of being together, has learned that when I say I need a moment,
she knows,
or this isn't about you,
right?
She knows now to not question it. She just kind of does her thing and walks away, and
gives you your space.
She gives me my space, which is what I need. But I'll have days where I'm writing it and I just literally want to hit the delete button and wipe it all out, and I'm like, walk away,
right?
Go get, if it's night, go get a drink,
right?
If it's whatever, let's go watch something on
just
Netflix,
disappear for a minute,
kind of thing. And for me, that was a hard thing until maybe the last 2 or 3 years.
Get out of town.
To go, I don't have to write today. I don't have to sit at this computer for 8 hours to be productive.
In 2 or 3 years, and the adulting term is like 2-3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So this is why I asked, is that I knew it had to be in there as a artist, as a creator. We deal with this, and it's tough. And that's why even the beginning of this year, I had made a video about those that are, I'm not in the like, I try to be a positive person. Right. I'm known as being like, oh, he's positive. But those that like know me know that I'm positive, but I stay positive because I know it's shitty not to be. I'm not positive because I want to be. I'm positive because I have to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's like those people that tell me they enjoy going to the gym. You're not doing it enough. Like, nobody wants to go to the fucking gym. Yeah. Nobody wants to have to pray and eat right and this, that, and the other. It's those that are aware of that without doing it. The ramifications of not are worse than doing it. So my point is, I think it's rather amazing, and I appreciate you being so sincere that this was like 2 minutes ago that you're starting to realize that you have to have, even through your creativity. Here you are living many people's dreams, right? Like you're an author full time. Right. Even that comes with tremendous amount of woebegons and responsibility, because you're going to question yourself. You're going to question your validity, your value. You're going to want to hit the delete button. And I think it's interesting, and it correlates with me so much that when I'm sure being that I tell people all the time, like, I'm not business minded. Like, I don't have a good business sense. Like, okay, I'm going to do the show today, and this is going to generate X. I'm not good at that stuff. What I'm good at is doing what I like to do, and literally, thank God, it seems to be producing revenue by guys like you and word of mouth. But when you hit so right now, your secret recipe is just, it seems like that Mondo Method has been one of your releases, right? Like, not if you don't write tomorrow because you're just off, you don't force yourself like a jerk boss just because you know that you need to.
I've stopped doing I need to write 1,096 words a day. Okay. That's the goal. But if I don't write today, I don't double it for tomorrow.
Interesting.
And for the longest time, that's what I did, because I know I'm going to have a 5,000 word day in the next couple of weeks. I know I'm going to make up 3 days.
You're going to overcompensate
I'm going to overcome, because I'm going to be in the zone, because I'm going to wake up in a good mood for whatever happens,
right.
And I'm just going to have all these ideas, and the coffee's going to be great, and nobody's going to bother me. And
right. Phone's not ringing.
I'm not getting 400 emails that are deal with this or deal with that. And I can just go, you know what? I got this idea. And it could be, I write on multiple projects. So at 10 o'clock, I'm writing the next Dirty Deeds. And then in that 45 minutes, I'm like, oh, you know what? I got to write this other book for this publisher. And I've started it, and I was stuck at this point, but now I understand. So I go to that. So on a day, I might write 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 different projects.
Have you always been multidimensional like that?
Yeah,
that's a talent.
I've always been able to write multiple short stories
on different topics.
Completely different.
I haven't had that much dialogue with people that are authors, especially on the show, let alone recreationally. But it seemed that those that I did, they really they need to write, like they write on that book or something. Right. They can't do a press release, and you can switch off, turn on.
On and off, yeah.
Wow.
I can do it. Like on Twitch, I've done it where I've written and finished a story and then started another story immediately.
And
people are like, how are you doing this? The joke when we go to book signings is, and I've gotten this a million times, and my wife still drives her nuts, when somebody comes up to me and goes, I have this great idea for you.
Oh boy.
You write it, and then we'll split the millions we're going to make, kind of thing. And I would say, I have a billion ideas in my head right now. Like I said, can you type? because this is how I literally 2 fingers. This is how I type.
You're still 2-finger guy?
2-finger guy. Remember me sitting there tapping?
Yes.
I'm very fast at it, but I'm still 2-finger guy.
Right.
I said, can you write? I need a typist. I need someone who can write because I have a billion ideas.
Right.
I don't have enough time to get all these.
Right.
So that's for me, like, that's the funny thing. On a couple of these, as an aside, on a couple when I was writing for the movie guys, I had a couple books that were like due. And I'm also a pacer. So when I'm on the phone, I can't sit down. I'm walking around.
Motion creates emotion, baby.
And when I'm a writer too, it's like I like that 15 minutes, but then I'm up and I'm walking. And Twitch for me was hard
because you're
in the beginning because it's an hour and 15 minutes of just being in that spot.
Right.
And so I said to my wife, I need to finish the thing. She's like, you want me to type because she's a typist,
right.
you know, and she types all day. She's a commercial property manager, so she's constantly. And so I was pacing in my office, and she's typing, and I'm just like, she's like, I'm like, am I going too fast? She's like, no, I'm actually kind of bored. Like, hurry up,
come on.
But the weirdest thing is she's looking at me as she's typing.
Wow.
And I'm like, look at the screen. Like, that's unnerving that I'm doing this.
Right.
But I mean, she typed out like almost two of those books.
Wow.
Doing that. And as she's going, she's like, didn't you do that in the last one? I said, they want that in they want this same scene in like every one, it seems like. I just turn your brain off, listen to my words.
Go with it here.
Go with it. This is not my stuff. This is not stuff that I'm proud necessarily. Like, this scene makes sense.
Right.
This is what they're giving me.
Interesting.
To do. And so that's like the holdup for me a lot of times is my brain is so far ahead of what my 2 little fingers are doing. And so I also need that break to kind of come back and go, okay, I'll do at the top of the next hour. Have you started to, I mean, it doesn't sound like it, but have you done the speak to text thing, or it's just not? Yeah. Some people can't. My fingers have to be moving. The brain has to be moving at the time. I've tried it a couple of times and it just,
but everyone's got a flavor. Yeah. I notice sometimes if I try to get better and better with my emails where they're just right to the point, but some that are a little bit longer, I've noticed I enjoy. It's like, I'll text it to myself first and then just copy and paste it. But you need that motion to create the, Interesting. But now, what is I saw a guy the other day rocking or repping this. It's a website like ACX or something. And it's about, you can look into do you have yours a lot of audiobooks? Do you have
about 40 different books.
Now, are you reading them or do you have someone read them?
I always have a narrator.
Interesting.
ACX is part of Amazon.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they bought ACX years ago.
Interesting. And I heard it was a way for independent contractors, if they've got like to submit their information to read for people, if they got a good voice. You can find narrators. Right. I have a couple books now that are being narrated. In October, I did a book that came out, A Month of Dunkin'. That's a nonfiction book. And I sat in different Dunkin' Donuts for October 2019. You do that every day?
Every day in that month, I sat and I had a drink or eat something different from the Dunkin' menu. And I talked to people. If people were in there, I would try to have a conversation, which is completely out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And like, I would have other people like David Royal, came down when I was in Palm Coast, and I talked to him, and he had just come back from Albuquerque. Him and his wife had gone to the balloon festival. So it's just random stories and different conversations, or kind of the journey for me was, I don't ever leave the house, and now I'm leaving it every single day. I'm forcing myself to go and drive, somewhere random because it's got to be a different Dunkin'. Right. And sometimes I was doing 2 or 3 in a day. And so for that one, I was like, for about a second, I said, "Oh, I should narrate this myself." And I was like, I don't want to. Right. I don't have the voice to do it, and I don't have the patience to do it. I have the equipment to do it. Right. But I don't have the patience. So I go in there and I find a narrator, and I had like 40 something different narrators.
Do you keep picking the same ones now? There's
certain ones. So like the Dirty Deeds series, and actually the Flagler Beach series, which started Jack DeGolia, who has done a ton of narration work. He's been on commercials and cartoons and all.
He's got the voice.
He's got the voice. And so he literally creates a file of everyone's voice.
Oh wow!
In the book that he's using, so he can go back and reference.
Oh, he's like actually animating them with his voice too. Like he's
it's like, okay, what's Chenzo? What's he? Oh, are we really Jersey on this, or
right?
Like that kind of thing. And
interesting.
So he did all those. So then when I started doing Dirty Deeds, like I was like, Jack, you're doing these. And some of those characters from Flagler Beach are in Dirty Deeds, like Chenzo and Marco and Chaz. So he knew those voices already. And now that I'm doing this next series, some of those characters like Chaz and Chenzo, they go into this other series as well. So he's already like, he knows their flavor. He's the same Chenzo from the last one. Yeah, okay, good. So he already knows a lot of it. And he's creating voices. And he's always asking questions, which is this really Florida? Is this Southern or is this Georgia,
Miami, Florida?
Yeah, like what?
Interesting.
What Florida are we looking at here?
So you find these guys that you click with, and you just work with them.
He'll do all of my thriller stuff.
Awesome.
Like he'll literally do all those. But then I'll find other narrators for like a new series or a one-off books, or like the Duncan book. I wanted somebody, and a lot of times it works. I'll get a guy. Like if I'm doing a series like my Keep Work Cthulhu, I'm like, it's a trilogy. Dude, I need you to do all 3 books.
Right.
At this rate, we're not messing around here. We're doing these. Like, this is it. Because I've had books where I've done the first book or 2, and they're like, well, let's raise our rate. I got you over the barrel kind of thing. And I'm like, no, I'll just get somebody else.
Yep.
It's not going to be as good. People are going to complain because it's a different narrator, but I don't care. I'm not giving you a dime more for this. And a couple times they've gone, all right, well, I'll do it at that.
I think that's smart, because once people have, it's funny. Even little things about when I'm not doing as much as I used to, but like I used to have like little doodads and stuff. And if I moved one, people are like, where's the doodad? And to show you, like people, they get their fix off of things you don't even realize. So I'm glad you keep I would imagine like book 2 or 3 comes out and the voice is a little bit different. Forget about it. People will be like that.
People go insane.
When did you tangent on Captain Royale? I love that man.
God. I haven't seen him probably since October 2019 in person.
Yeah, I'd have to say I miss appropriately. I miss it because we have seasons change, we evolve, we grow. But like that Kokomo scene was just when I met him. He allowed me he basically mentored me, and I had him on the show. But back then I was how are you? He's just one of those guys that you want to be like. Does that make sense? Like I was enamored with. I was just his persona, his demeanor.
It's the vibe from when you first meet him. It's like you've known David forever, and he knows everything about you.
Yeah.
And my one of my favorite David stories is I just started dating Shelly, and I was dating this other girl I'd been dating for a little while. And went over to David's, and we were hanging out when he had the boat, Shaboomy. And so we're sitting on the boat. A couple other people are there, and I'm talking, and I'm like, I like both of them. Blah blah. Blah. You're.
This is the man to talk to.
And I'm like, this is out of anybody. Yes. This is the guy. This is the guy you want the wisdom. And I remember he just said to me, more or less, he said, the other one, we'll call her Jenny because that's her name. He said, Jenny is a dime a dozen. He said, Shelly is somebody special. And I was like, I got all teary, and I was like, you're right. And like, that was, I literally, like a couple of days later, I said to Jenny, I can't, I'm going to start seeing somebody else. And she was cool. She was like, all right. And we're actually still friends. She's actually still my editor.
Well, you were sincere and honest.
And she's actually still my editor 10 years later on all my self-published books. But I'll never, like, he's the guy you just go to. And you don't, a lot of times with David, you don't even ask. It's like you're in a movie when you're hanging out with him.
He's so humble too. I hope at some point we'll make sure he listens to this at least segment. You would think, and a word from our sponsor, David Well. We love you, man. Like and you're right. Like there's this, he's got this, and he's so humble about it. Like so many other people we've met that would maybe have that, but they're almost like, listen to me kind of.
Yeah.
And he's more of like, I want like, can I listen to you? And he made so much time for me when I was thinking about really living on a sailboat and was going to take that big leap. And I knew all the funny jokes about, boat being an acronym for bust out another 1,000. I knew that it was probably borderline not possible, but I was going to do my damnedest to make it.
Right.
And through his love and mentorship and counsel and being factual and not romantic about it, I realized that it just wasn't the time. Right. And it probably saved me my relationship, my life, my livelihood, because it was going to take everything and some. But he wasn't trying to talk me in or out of it. But just like you're doing now, giving people giving advice by your own scar tissue is the best. And he was able to say,
he's not making stuff up.
No,
he talks from experience, and David has a ton of experience.
It's amazing.
What I love about him is when you're in a group of people, there's always that obnoxious upfront person.
Yep.
There's always that guy who's like you just said,
listen to me.
Listen to me. This is what you're doing.
Right.
He's not that person. He's sitting in the background and David, what do you think? And he gives you that smile, and then he talks for a few minutes and he gives you his real world.
Yep.
This is I can only tell you what I did in my life kind of attitude with it. And it's just it's true. Talk with him, it's just so organic.
It is. Because
all of a sudden I used to have lunch with him like maybe once a month. I would drive down from Jacksonville and we would go to different places, hang out, like let's go to Mezzalunas and stuff. And I don't know how many times I'd go home and Shelly would be like, what did you learn? And it's true. And it's true. And it's like, well, I realized about this about myself or this about whatever, or I should do this.
Yep.
And it wasn't even that do it this way.
Yep.
It was he just let me talk. Sometimes he just lets you talk through it.
Yep.
And sometimes he just kind of throws in a word here or there. I miss over the last 2 years now of not being able to
I miss him too.
To sit.
He had I would imagine too, there's so many things that go into a character like that. But one of the things I would say about him would be his innate characteristic of almost like slowing time down. Because imagine he was in a tower conducting airplanes, and he's the only one that I've known done that. That's not like you don't bump into a lot of guys that do that. I'm sure it takes a apex predator type of man to be able to not stress out. Got 18 planes flying in at one time, and he's got that cool, calm, and collectiveness, and he's just. It's a very attractive, intoxicating trait from one man to another. You're like, damn, I want to be like that. Yeah. He's just, the slow with the mind, quick with the mind, slow with the tongue factor. He's got it. So David, love you, miss you.
Definitely.
God, I remember when he even sold Shibumi, what a moment that was.
Yeah.
I never got to go on her. He invited me, but I never, and it was right at the cusp where I was meeting him that was on the brink of the horizon of him. Right. And that was his baby. But I think any good sailor, they are your babies, your vessels. Yeah. But so you got to be on the Shibumi.
I got to, sit in the back, on the canal.
Still.
But having a couple of drinks and just.
He kept that thing.
Other people,
primo too. Right. And his wife is such a sweetheart. And that, like usually every great man's got just a better companion.
Well, that's right,
she's such a sweetheart. But yeah, I miss and I love all your establishments out there in Flagler, and you guys know I'm out there, but there really ain't nothing like that Kokomo's jive.
No. I miss it, and I miss Marcantina. I know. Just seeing them. I miss hanging out with them and a lot of times putting my foot in my mouth, saying something stupid, and Mark just laughing his ass off and not correcting or anything else. I'm not going to tell this story, but I think you know the story. If not, I'll tell you afterwards. Where Mark kind of set me up, not set me up like in a bad way, but set me up like didn't tell me, hey, shut up. He just kept laughing, and I just made a complete ass of myself.
I don't know which time? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I got to be a little more specific.
I had a handful of those. Mama Hutzel had a way of like watching me, lack of better words, like fall and be there when I fell. And one of the best filters that I had back then, and I think this comes with time, but like, I was still a few years into the independent game. And back then I'd sit down with someone for 3 hours to hear their story, but there never came out of work out of it. And to this day, I still do that to some capacity. But as you get older, you realize once it become like a full-blown business, like I can do this, but not right now. Can we go out recreationally?
Right.
I thought this was going to be business minded. And mama taught me how to be more like, because she would always ask me how did the meetings were there.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, I don't know how she would say it. Cause they weren't I wanted to hear them. So it wasn't condescending,
Right.
but there were ways about her. She would kind of be like, that was kind of not the best use of your time, was it?
Right.
And I remember being like, no, that wasn't. And I loved how protective they were over us. And I say us, meaning whoever was a frequenter there, you had the best protection.
Yeah.
Because Papa Hutzel was looking for a reason to just hit somebody. And not because he was aggressive, but to protect.
Right,
he had that old school nurturing, protecting demeanor. And I remember I wanted to bring all my meetings there just so that they would have their own and be like, what did you think about them? Now, granted, I'm just building websites. I wasn't getting in bed with these people, but it was still good to know, like, that person's not going to pay their bill. Watch. Like, they just could, and they were avid business owners, being restaurateurs, and they had that old Southern intelligence about them.
They had done it all, regardless of what the business was.
Right. But they made you feel so, I mean, you know this. I mean, you pretty much could order whatever you wanted as long as the ingredients were in the kitchen.
Right.
With some capacity, he'd make you whatever you wanted. And it was this good old fashioned Italian feel of like your family. And I miss that. And of course, times change. And I know the city's changed a lot. And as we're becoming more and more of I mean, dude, I don't know the last time you've even been like, it's getting crazy out here in a good way. It's
well, before I came, actually, I got here early. So I was like, you know what, let me drive.
There you go.
Let me do the drive down A1A and then the back, and let me see
what's going on.
This monstrosity that used to be Kokomo's there now, and all that. And
empty.
I'm like, it's all changed. I mean, it's all that building's empty.
Yeah, I mean, I just got some Flagler Beach juice the other day of like some current events. That place is still this. I don't know. I think it's the couple that owns it, the same couple. And last time I had heard, he wants to partner with someone to run a restaurant there. Oh. And I'm no restaurateur, but I guess that's not a flavor that many restaurateurs want to be. They want to rent from you. They don't want you in their room. So, but it looks like, I've never been in, but it looks, I mean, you saw all the it's all glass doors. It has potential. I just don't know. Like I said, it looks like it may be the relationship, or for all I know too, it could be some handicap like issue where it's like it needs you know how they do that here in Flagler, like if it doesn't have a ramp or this, and then the whole project gets halted. But yeah, and then remember, rest in peace. Was her name Mary? The girl, the sweetheart with the dreads that lived at Mary Beth. Remember that scene too? She up there, and that was I mean, it was just such a cool little spot. But yeah, that's all redone now. I don't even think there's any remnants of even like the building in there, because they gutted the whole thing. I was
like, this is completely different. And then you're just driving and you're like, well, that place has changed, and that's you know, what happened to the you know, coming over the bridge. I'm like, oh, that's where I always call it the biker bar. That closed on A1A, and it's now
Johnny D's. Yep, they moved.
I'm like, oh, that's where the bookstore used to be.
Yep.
And that, you know, so I'm like, that used to be a bank on the corner. That's not so like everything. Oh, the comic book.
When is the last time you like driven around here?
It's been a while.
Wow, it's so different, huh?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's funny because when you're obviously here, it evolves and you don't even notice. You know it's different, but it's not that much of a shell shock. It's changed. And now, I mean, like I said, I endorse it. There's a lot of old time salts, I think, just like anything that are adverse to it because they don't want anything to change. Right. I mean, I'm okay with it. I have a very real, I think I'm aware of the fact that, I mean, I've got to, we only live to be 80, 100, if that. Like, I don't need the world to revolve around me. Like, it's gonna happen one way or the other. I got my little oasis over here and I'm good. But it's the whole point of even bringing it up is there are still some great places to go to, but being that we're getting more and more influx of people, there's not that spot to do that Kokomo's thing, you know. And a lot of the locals know. The locals have lost their local spots and stuff. And once again, I'm not against it because I need growth too. I'm a bit, you know, like I want there to be great sustainable growth and change. But yeah, that will always be one of the most beautiful. I mean, I still, like I said, I attribute a lot of my success from being there and learning how to fail and grow. And even though I had been doing it for a handful of years, I wasn't doing it to the capacity that I was then,
Right.
and meeting with people. And it's funny, I don't really have like a home coffee joint anymore.
I don't either. I mean, I'm in Jacksonville, and it's too big.
Yeah.
You know, there's not them little mom and pop places that
Have
I would feel comfortable bringing my laptop in and sitting for
doing your
for 5 hours. And
I was going to say, so do you even have? I support some of our local spots out here, but once again, I think because we're a little bit OG in the coffee bar, sitting somewhere. Do you have a spot, or you do? Yeah, I don't really either. I don't do a lot of work like I used to. Remember, I would be there too.
Oh, yeah.
Even between my meetings, I was designing and working there. And for some reason back then, and being that the genre of living on the internet, so to speak, was still kind of evolving, it was kind of it felt okay. Like now I can't get shit done if I'm sitting anywhere. I mean, I can't like actually work. It's more of a face-to-face meeting and even those are deteriorating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really I don't know, where in Jax are you? Because I don't know.
I'm on Ocean Way, so I'm up near the airport.
Okay, so you got a lot of commercial stuff around you.
Yeah.
You don't. Okay.
Yeah, I mean there are some small places there, but I don't ever get when we go in there, I don't ever get the vibe of I can sit here all day.
This is my living room.
They're too busy.
Right.
You know, there's a constant flow of people in and out.
Right.
And it's tough, and we got spoiled.
Yeah, we did.
You know, I mean, we got spoiled. So, you know, I sit in my office.
Me too. For a blip, you know, they're probably going to smack me for saying this. For a blip a while back, they were thinking about, which I'm sure, I don't know if you had heard of or whatnot, but this was probably, I bumped into them at Breakaways, and boy, did we have a good time. Let's just say Mama Hudson got mad at Papa. I didn't know they were there, and I was just misbehaving on a, you know, Wednesday at 2, and they were there at a 2-top in front of Breaks, and I was like, we're not going anywhere. Like, we're gonna and we probably, Pop and I put a few, let's just say they ran out of what we were drinking. And we had a blast, but combined with the euphoria of seeing each other and the alcohol and some places that were available back then, they were really contemplating to open something else up. And I was, of course, not a good soundboard because I'm like, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mom was like, but anything that they would ever, it's that feel that you can't, it's like a home that has good energy. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. It's not just a fucking sage stick. It's got to be real, and the motive has got to be pure, and they had it. Yeah. But it was, like I said, I miss it appropriately, meaning like we've obviously grown since then. And but what a moment in time that was. And I look back on it and I'm like, I wouldn't change it for the world. No, it was such a good,
I think we really, it was for both of us, it was the perfect setting, the perfect spot. And it gave us both a chance to grow our businesses and to our mindset and everything in a really super positive place with some really good coffee and really good food.
Yeah. I remember I got my name on the menu with the salad. That was my big, I was like, yes. And I loved, by the time the last era, like the last season I was in there, I started bringing the meetings to the back because they started just getting, remember how busy it would be? Yeah. You couldn't sit in the front without, it just was too tight. So we started going I would go in the back, and it was, that was the best because I remember in a moment of peace or something, they would eavesdrop. And like I said, it was just having someone that actually cared was awesome. And they helped me out a lot, man. There was, I won't say names, but there was a handful of people that, lack of better words, were just fucktards. They were really going to try screwing me or had talked extremely demeaning about me. And I didn't know. And I was too young back then. I thought everyone liked me. And I'll never forget, in their loving, cold, real way, we're able to say, like, you're not working with them. Or, and I'll never forget, they really saved me probably from a lot of heartache with some people. And it was, once again, they didn't need to do that. No. You know, like they had enough of their own. Remember the hours that Mark was putting in?
Ridiculous.
No one ever knew that people just thought he was just It's like, dude, he was
like he wandered in at 7 to make coffee. Like that dude's been there for 3 hours.
I know.
After working, especially when they were doing like the events in town that you're open till 10 o'clock. Well, they're not locking the door at 10. They're locking the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. And he's back 3 hours later.
I never, when he started being candid with me in that demeanor, were like, because they were very private too. Yeah. You know, a lot of people probably don't even know what we're talking about because they wanted to.
This isn't about them.
Yeah, this is about us. It's not about you guys, but they were very private, which I always learned from too back then. Cause I just thought, oh, they must be so candid with everyone. And then I would realize, I'm like, you don't even understand that he's like, and they kept it that way because they wanted a real consumer to get that feeling of the wow factor.
Well, I mean, think about going into any place. I mean, the worst thing is people complaining, people who work there.
Right.
You know, and you know, now with everything going on, anytime we go out to dinner, I cringe when the waitress or waiter comes up and says, we're really short staffed because 2 people called out and this one's got COVID and blah, blah. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I just say, sorry for the delay. What are you ordering?
Right.
That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear the whole, your whole life story and all that stuff. Unless I ask you.
Right.
You know, unless I'm writing about the place.
You just gave me a book.
Right. Like we went out a couple weeks ago. There's a great place. If you're ever up in Jacksonville, going towards Jacksonville Beach, called Taco Lou's.
Never heard of it.
Oh my! You got to come. You guys got to come up. It is the best tacos.
You're putting the Mondo approval here.
Yes. So I've written them into the new book, into the new series, and we were there. And there's our waiter was really cool. Like they're like laid back. You know, he's got his hat on sideways and just a cool guy. Right. And then there's a waitress there that looks like Amy Winehouse.
I mean, beautiful.
Yeah. And this girl's, I almost said chick. You can't say that. But she has such a pissy look on her face. But like you can tell that's her.
That's her brand. That's her brand.
That's her. Like, and going back and forth. And she's like, "What are you staring at?" And I said, "Amy Winehouse." Going backward. So when when I paid the bill, the guy came over and said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Oh, I'm Brian." I said, "All right, Brian. What's the Amy Winehouse chick? What's her name?" She's like, "Oh, Erin." I said, "All right. I'm a local author and I write books, and you guys are definitely going to be in us." And he was like, "Well, okay." He got all excited and, "Oh my God, that's so great!" But I'm like, I like that, you know, that, right. And it's not all the time, but sometimes it catches you. And like, that's a place where I want a taco. We're not going to go to Taco Bell. We're not going to go to La Napoleon. We're not going to go to those places. I mean, if we want Mexican food, we're going to go out for Mexican. But if I want a scallop taco, you know what I mean? If I want a mahi-mahi, if I want a seafood taco, they have like 4 or 5 different ones.
And what's it called again? Lou's?
Taco Lou's.
Taco Lou's. Is his name Lou?
Yeah, so they have a whole big story where they do a lot of like California tacos.
Okay,
and because they did a lot of travel in this VW bus, which is still parked out front, and they got a really great backstory for the place, and it's just
good energy.
It's good energy. It's cool. They got a good bar. They got a lot of good bourbon drinks there. And stuff.
So they're full.
So they're full. I mean, they got a patio out back. Wow. It's a great place. You guys are going to have to come up. We're going to have to meet you guys up there. And so, like, I love those places, but it's not a place that I can go and sit down and write for 4 or 5 hours, right? You know, because they're so damn busy. They're constantly turning over, and you don't want to ever. You know, you don't want them looking going, "Oh, this
guy's drinking too much coffee."
This guy's drinking too much coffee. Yeah. We got a 2-top that's not doing anything, and I just killed a waitress's tips for the whole day. You know,
I love when you were talking about extracting stories from like people at the venue, like when you're there, because it's got to be it's an unlimited supply of creativity if you can tap into it.
Right.
You know, there's always. You know, like that just impresses me because like any establishment is, but especially places that you feel this place of security and dominion, which we felt at Kokomo's. We get to watch so much.
And I'm a people watcher.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, me and my wife, we will go to places and we will literally just sit for an hour.
Just enjoy the show.
I'll make up stories. She'll go, what do you think this guy's problem is? And I'll say, his wife hates him, and that's not even his kid.
Right.
You just look at him. She slept with with some, And I make up this whole big thing. And a lot of that stuff I'll remember. And my wife is my first reader on most of my stuff.
She's your number one.
She's my number one.
It's like me. Camille reviews my stuff. And if it sucks, she's like, that's horrible.
And she's the worst person for me because she beats the crap out of me on stuff. But so she'll read, and all of a sudden, and she has a red pen, which drives me.
Ooh, I hear the red pen.
I hear the, and I'm like, oh.
Dun,
but
dun, dun.
But she'll laugh and she'll make a note, and she'll like, I remember this, because she'll remember conversations that other people have had or we've had or whatever, and so it's a lot of that real life stuff, and then I forget about that, and I'm literally like 2 weeks, I'm in my shorts in my office, and she'll go, when was the last time you left the house? And I'm like, I don't know. It was like
last year,
2 Sundays ago. And she's like, put some pants on and let's go out. And I'm like, I don't want to go out. She's like, we're going to dinner. You're taking me to dinner.
Yep.
We're going to Maggiano's, and we'll sit in Maggiano's, and I'm listening to all these conversations, and I'm like, boom, more energy. It's more, the way, and it's not even conversations. It's the way people.
It's the social dichotomy.
Look at one another. It's the way you're listening to a conversation. You're seeing. I'm immediately looking at mom over here, who's pissed that this kid is telling these college stories or whatever, and I'm like,
you know what I think it is too, though. I think, being biased, I think it's an Italian trait.
Yeah,
I think it's like we don't sit with our back towards the door. We don't.
That drives my wife nuts.
Oh
my God, we went to one of the Brazilian steakhouses because I love getting the meat sweats.
Yes,
and we go in, and she starts to sit down. I went, and she's like, "Are you?"
No.
I was like, "My."
It don't feel right.
No,
I can't.
I don't like everyone behind me like
me
that.
neither.
And that's the thing. And you're right, because that's my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
That's the original Armando.
Don't sit with the back towards the door.
That was his.
It don't even. It not only is it probably, in this day and age we're not gun yielding cowboys as much as we would want to think we are, but I would say it just feels better when I can see, and I think I find. See, I know that I feel like you're the kind of, back then I could close my eyes and it's like you were the kind of guy that you would speak when spoken to, but you're not going to get involved in someone's bullshit.
No.
And I love that about you. And I've tried to learn not to be, because I love to poke and prod too. I'm so curious in a lot of things that I learned to stay in your lane. But I love watching people's, like the other day, I do the same thing you do. We were out, and I swear I was watching the evolution of a online date meeting in person, and I was engulfed in their conversation, and I could tell I loved the subtle awkwardness combined with the butter. I could tell they both had the butterflies, and it was so awesome to see. But once again, I love watching it evolve. More just from a self-fascination and entertainment perspective, but in your case, you never know when that next story. Yeah. Do you have I'm not going to ask you the specifics, but do you have something on the horizon that may be like a paradigm shift of like maybe a new series, a new this that you got, or are you kind of pretty much programmed in with most of your current work?
Right now, it's the current work. I've really switched more to the crime thriller stuff.
Okay.
The horror stuff, I've kind of hit the ceiling on those. And I still have tons of ideas. I still love it. I'll still, on Twitch, I'll still write horror short stories, but I don't have, but I have 3 horror books with publishers right now that have not been released, that will hopefully be released in the next year or so. So I still will have horror stuff coming out, but it's really just the crime thriller stuff.
Got you. And now is that more because it's in your creativity bank, but are you seeing that being a very big demand right now? There seem to be a big draw?
I think it's the combination of, I genuinely love it. I want to write it. I read way more crime thrillers than I do horror for a long time now. And the ceiling is like 2 or 3 times as high. And I've just started in it really over the last 3-4 years. So
you got a lot of.
I think I got a lot there, and it's a better vibe for me. The horror community is a lot of drama. There's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of, I made a joke. I was on a podcast the other night, and I made a joke. They were talking about horror, and the guy's it's a horror podcast, and I was like, I said, here's the difference. I said, I go to a horror convention. I said, and everybody's backstabbing everyone else.
Wow.
Over like a $10,000 year. You've made like 10 grand selling your shitty horror stuff. I said, then I go to a thriller convention. I said, and there's, Michael Conley and Harlan Coben, guys who have
the Michael Jordans of the
$1 million. They have Netflix series about their books and stuff. And those guys are sitting at the bar, and you walk up and they go, "Hey, we're getting bourbon. Do you want a bourbon?" They don't know who I am.
Right.
So it's a total. And these guys are literally making millions of dollars. And
so there's just a different jive, huh?
And it's just a totally different. It's a really different. The vibe is different now, and I think it's not all horror. I mean,
I know what you mean,
but there's
a higher concentration.
There's a lot of lately over the last, say, 3 or 4 years of people who are attacking, and we've had a couple people who are. This
is like author on author, shit you're talking about. Like
this is like a guy a guy of like 3 or 4 years ago was a jerk.
Man,
okay, and now he didn't. He came on to a woman online. I got to be very careful. He came on to
keep it clean.
He came on to another author or a wannabe author online. He's married. He got drunk. He started hitting on her, asking for pictures or whatever. So she put it out there.
Good for her.
She just was like, "F this guy."
Yep.
Boom. This is what he's doing, which is fine. 100%. You know what? Call them out on it. My problem was 47 other people who had nothing to do with any of it piled on and started attacking him, started attacking his wife. His wife had a publishing company. They refused to buy any of the books. All these others. So if you're an author and you're on this press, all of a sudden nobody wants to buy your books because you're involved with them. And so he dropped off completely, and they still kept going and going and going. And then people were questioning, well, what did he really do? He didn't physically attack you. He sent a message. He basically said, hey, send me a picture of your boobs kind of thing. I mean, that's just an asshole guy kind of thing. But he didn't really. You weren't threatened or anything else, and you're making this.
She cancel cultured him,
and she completely, but then everybody else did too, and it was just the infighting. Now you have this group saying she's wrong,
right? And
it's a small group,
turmoil,
a small vocal group, and then you have this group who's attacking them, and I'm not going to draw sides. I'm not getting involved. In this.
Smart.
Don't tag me on Twitter with this bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's what was happening.
Right.
Well, what do you think? And then tag like 30 authors. No, don't do that. So it's still that attitude in the horror community. Unfortunately, there's the old timers, guys like me. I've been there 30 years. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And then there's guys who've been there 2 or 3 years,
and they feel
in their 20s, and they're like, let's cancel everyone we don't like. There's that big movement of every book should have a trigger warning now. If there's anything in them, we're writing horror books.
Yeah. Hello.
There's going to be violence. There's going to be rape or almost. There's going to be,
it's an easily offensive.
Yeah.
Segment.
There's going to be books like that, but they want to attack. Like,
how have you noticed, being that you are, you are in a potential crossfire, being that you're producing literature, you're doing a lot of things with your own persona, you're attending these things. Have you noticed yourself to be as free and artistic as you can, or have you seen, because of this cancel culture, to be more afraid? You know what I mean? Like have you had to reprogram a little bit?
You have to be aware. I think before all the cancel culture stuff started, I was to the point where I didn't want to write extreme horror. I didn't want to write
the really,
the real brutal stuff anymore. I also felt like, being Italian, the F word is in every sentence.
Right.
And my writing for a little while was the F word was in every sentence. And I was like, there's better language.
Right.
There's better ways to prove this point except for saying F you.
Right.
And so that was, for me, that kind of worked out before all of this. So like I work for a publisher called Sever Press, and I do horror book novellas, whether it's Bigfoot or
Right.
sea monsters, whatever. And when I first signed the first 6-book contract, I've signed another one now, so I have 12 books with them so far. In their private group, all the guys said, you haven't arrived until this reviewer reviews and gives you a 1-star review. And she's going to give you a 1-star review if you have any bad word. Like damn is a bad word.
Wow.
Like that will be, and of course I had a couple of damns in the first one, and she gave me a bad, this is awful language or whatever. And it was kind of funny. It was like, that's where we are.
Right.
Like I can't say damn in a book.
Right.
I didn't say gee damn. I said damn.
Right.
And I'm more aware in my Dirty Deeds series, in the new series, there's no profanity.
Wow.
There's no super violent action. There's none of that. There's no sex. I mean, there's romance to the point. There's food, there's flirting stuff, but there's no penetration.
Now you're doing that because once you want to once again kind of appeal to more of a larger demographic.
I want fans of
different genres that tap into this maybe a little bit.
Fans of any of the Harlan Coben, fan of Bosch, fans of any of these big properties. I want them to like mine. I don't want you to not read my book because you're afraid of the F word.
Right.
Or your kid can't read this because somebody's shooting up.
Right.
I mean, it might be mentioned in there.
Right.
But there's not going to be.
It's graphic and
it's right. There's no graphic. We might say this guy's a drug addict.
Right.
This is why this guy is acting the way he is. But we're not going to show the guy with a needle in his arm.
Right.
We're not going to do all that. We're not going to go into the bedroom.
Right.
We're going to have the characters smile at each other and he takes her hand or she says something, are you going to take me to bed already?
So we're keeping it PG-13.
We're keeping it definitely that. And for a long time, that was hard for me to wrap my head around.
Right.
Because again,
you want to be free.
I want to be free. But then I realized, what it makes in these instances, it makes for a better story.
Right.
Because I have to rely on other words besides just let me do a string of profanity here.
Right.
Or let me do a completely violent scene where people are, cutting each other's ears off or something like that.
You're having to do more thought-provoking things without not calling it easy, but using that. I'm
a big fan, so I don't ever watch horror movies.
Go figure.
I haven't watched them.
I would have lost a bar bet.
Yeah.
Armand doesn't watch.
I'm not a fan. I love reading them. I love writing them.
Wow.
But when I do watch them, I watch more of the subtle horror. I want to know I don't want to know what the monster looks like. I want to, in my mind, the monster's off camera and messing with somebody. That's what I want. I want to know that people are the monster.
Right.
I don't want to necessarily see the blood and the guts and people being eviscerated and all that shock, Saw.
I'm not a fan of that
Hostel
either.
And Human Centipede, all those. I don't want to watch any of those. And there's a ton of really good horror out there. So me and another author, J.C. Walsh, about once a month we do a YouTube thing where he gives me 4 horror movies that are like a theme. And I'll watch the 4 horror movies and he watches it. And he's a huge horror fan. And then we'll talk about them. And we'll talk about the movies. And I say to him, if it's just blood and guts, don't even bother because I won't even watch it.
Right.
But
you're talking about Saw as a blood and guts to me.
Right.
Like really horrible storyline, just kill.
I don't want,
grotesque.
I don't want serial kill. Like, I grew up on Halloween. I grew up on Friday the 13th. Those movies were great when I was 13 and 14 years old. I don't want to watch those anymore.
Right.
So we're watching just like different movies that are more of a subtle horror or just something weird has something to it.
Right.
It's all different types of things. And that's what I like, I write more like that now. I think that's
where
the evolution of stuff. I look back and I go, wow, in my Dying Days series, which is still the biggest thing I've ever written sales wise. And, I haven't written that. Like, I think the 9th and last book came out like 4 or 5 years ago. And I look at that and I go, I couldn't write that anymore. I mean, I remember at a book signing, and a guy came up to me and he goes, dude, this is the book with the rapey zombies, right? And I went, yeah. And they don't I don't write graphic where the zombies are raping people, but I want to put that fear, the premise. I want to put that fear into your mind that this could happen. But I was like I was like, my wife's there, my daughters, but I'm like, I almost want to go.
It's more than that.
Don't say that. You know? Don't say that out loud. It's not a rapey zombies.
Right.
But then I've gotten 5-star reviews because they love that angle. They love the rapey zombie part of it. And I'm like, I couldn't write that anymore.
Well, I think art, as anything, is an evolution of the creator too, right?
Right.
So, like I said, I attribute what you're doing is such an artistic outlet, and it's we change, we evolve, and I mean, I'm sure, even not from a censorship standpoint, but you realize, and once in hitting ceilings too, like it's funny because as you were talking, I was thinking about how different genres bring different types of people. For instance, when you were talking about the horror having right now, the community seems to be a lot of like author on author warfare, a lot of, and just like in a sports genre, I was thinking about you could have the same bar, same TV, but what type of content is being portrayed is going to bring a different type of crowd.
Right.
And when I go watch soccer, we get complimented tons of times by the bartenders of like, you can bring this crowd in, because I always usually apologize because we are loud. But as far as the way that we treat the people serving us and and what we order combined with how we order, there seems to be this very appreciative, like, you guys come anytime.
Right,
And I was blown away when I get to hear, because I don't watch a lot out, but when you take another sports segment, sometimes brings in a lack thereof respect for the servers and or their establishment.
Right.
It's funny how every genre has its own like scene. Like, and it's interesting that you look back on the stuff that you used to write and you go, I don't want to, for instance, like I said, The Dying Days I'm sure that wasn't in the rape segment of a bookstore, but you got some people that gravitate to that and that's what they enjoyed. But it is interesting to see what is, I'm sure you being not only an artist, but also a smart businessman, in my opinion, that if you see an evolution or like because of, let's just say, even the way media works, like let's just say Avatar does blow up sooner, because I know they're working on the second one forever. Maybe that influences you in your creativity to come up with something more whimsical and more novel than crime, etc. Right? Like, because it seems that you're open to that. Like
whatever seeps in. Again, if I'm at this point where I have to write, I love writing, but it's not for the money. It was not always about the money, but that was always
the sustainability.
That was that 1B was money. Writing 1B money, and so now it's to the point where all the money that's generated from my book sales and the merch and whatever it is, goes right back in. It goes for more advertising to generate more money, But if I didn't get another sale for the rest of my life, we're not going to be homeless.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that pressure is put on myself, never put on by my wife. And I look at other creators out there who are like chasing that, going, oh, it's the next avatar. I got to write the next avatar. I don't have to do that. Unless the idea really hits me and I'm like, this is the idea that will not get the hell out of my brain.
You got to get it out.
It has to get out. It has to be written. And so I'm in a really good place with that. And I don't know, if you had said 5 years or 6 years ago, hey, you're going to be writing crime thrillers, I would have went, maybe one or two, not all right. I know the next 18 months of my life is going to be these crime thriller series. So, I mean, I think there's that, and you don't know, for me, I don't know what's going to be the next thing.
Well, I think that's the beautiful part about being a creator and an artist is that now, and also for those that are out there that are listening to this, that are on the brink or recently new to the non-W2 lifestyle, I will tell you, live broke and do place yourself in a position. Yeah. I get so excited when I do hear about people that are positioning themselves so where they don't, you can tell the difference between a plumber that has a lot of work and doesn't. And I prayed and worked and wanted to be the guy that didn't have to yes you to death to get your project.
Right.
And thank God, I think we're in similar positions because of a lot of pain, struggle, and working hard and not wanting to go to the shoe store. Like we know that feeling, and it's kept us to stay living within your means. And now you're able to, it's more creativity. You know, like when I get to take on projects like yourself or anyone, it's like, I'm not like, come on, let's go. Like, it's more of take your time on it. Like, I think I'm the only contractor, even when I'm dealing with them, that are like, the pricing doesn't change from now till next month. It's not, if you don't say yes now, it's a 30-day expiration date. Like, I'm like, what? Because there's guys I've gotten, I'm like, Windows or this, and like, it's going to be, now I understand price of goods goes up, but I mean, like, when they're scaring you, we're not living, sale to sale, thank God, but it's hard to get to that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're in that space where you can go, you know what? I'm going to do my Mondo Method today for 15-20, or I'm not jiving right today. I got to go to Lou's for the fucking taco. I'm going to have a good day. But it's tough to get to that position because I think, once again, being biased and saying that Italians are hard as hell on each other, I think it's hard to not be that, it's like I say that sometimes people use the analogy of like, I never heard that, but like, what's his name was a really hard director to work for. Who did E.T.? What was his name? Why am I having a brain fart? Who did
Spielberg?
Yeah. I heard he's like miserable to have worked with as a director, but he obviously produces greatness. I try to tell those that it seem to be really hard on themselves. Like, don't be your own Spielberg. Yeah. Like give yourself some, like listen to Hugh and have your moment of creativity and your greatnesses, but get outside, do something, break away from it. Because
this can't be everything. You know what I mean? For a long time, the writing always came first.
Right.
I have 3 kids now. They're all in their 20s now. But when they were younger, and it wasn't like, hey, it's Saturday, let's go to the park. It was Saturday, leave daddy alone for 3 hours. I got to write. I got to work. And so I'm past that. I will take.
You're going to live first.
And I'm not great with it all the time, but my wife really will. Like I'll win. I just won 2 of my books. One are in the top 50 2021 indie books of 2021, and it's great. So I'm like all excited, and I say to Shelly, and not that she's not excited, but she knows me, and she's like, "Oh my God, that's really awesome!
Right?
Did you do the dishes today?"
Yep.
And that really makes me smile. I'm like, you know what? I gotta
live
life. I still got crap to do.
Yeah.
I still gotta do the normal day-to-day things for me.
Yep.
And I forget about that sometimes. And so that's really you take that moment. It's the cliche. You stop and smell the flowers.
Yeah.
And I think as I'm getting older, I'm doing that more and more. As I'm getting older, I want to talk to my kids more. I want to see what they're doing and everything else. And I want to just be able to get away. I want to be able to go, let's go to Biloxi for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't gamble, but my wife does. My wife loves the penny slots.
Yep.
But I'll bring my laptop, and from 7:00 at night, we spent all day together. 7:00, she's like, I'm going downstairs for 5 or 6
and then
hours.
You get to do you.
Then I will write, and we're in a corner suite on the 18th floor, and it's gorgeous, and the view is great, but we earn that. We get to that point.
It makes me happy knowing that you're in a place that they say some of these cliche statements, but like you are working to live.
Right.
You're not living to work. And Denzel Washington said it, and I use it all the time in my own personal life, but you don't see a hearse, you don't see a U-Haul behind a hearse. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to go by so quick. And I'm guilty. I get caught up a lot. There's a million things we got to do all the time. Adulting is the worst. Yeah. It can be debilitating at times and that's why I think it's beautiful when you position yourself where you don't like. I was saying this to somebody the other day, and I'm trying to emulate it more than even just saying it. And that is, I want to be where I want to be, not where I have to be.
Right.
And it's hard to do that. And not everyone has that luxury. And trust me, no matter how cool you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter how sexy you are, there's probably always there's always someone or something you're striving to be or look like or attain. But if you're where you want to be in that moment versus have to be, I feel like it's you can sense the difference. Like David Royale is a guy that's where he wants to be.
Right.
I don't think he was forcing himself to talk to us
Right.
or sit at Kokomo's, where you can tell the people that are looking through you, or they're at the job they hate, but instead of keeping it to themselves, they're telling you like, I hate this fucking job.
Yeah.
And we're shorthanded. It's like, okay, well, we know, but can
Yeah.
I get my taco? You know, like try to position yourself, not just revenue wise, like not financially, but at peace. But it's hard because it's so fleeting. And that's one thing I've noticed is amongst friends, families, customers, etc., being that the internet is becoming more and more and more part of us. Don't let this young, fast, quick money influence you to think that if you're not making 250 grand today off of one NFT, that you're a failure.
Right.
You're not. Is it happening? Yes. Has this money exchange always been happening? Yes. We're just never have seen it. And now for some reason, more than ever, if you're not bragging about it, you're not doing it, which you and I both know 99% of the general public out there that is bragging about your financial gain, A, you're an idiot, and B, you're probably not doing it anyways. Because the guys that are really doing it are quiet, calm, collective, and they're keeping it away from the public because it's A, fragile, and B, not promised tomorrow. Right. So those that are out there, and I'm talking to myself, Armand, this year started off with a lot of like, okay, you're a web guy. You've been doing this 10 years. You're in the NFT space. Why are you not making 250 grand a day, idiot? And I would get down on myself and I'm like, no. It's nothing more than just the same old stock jockeys out there clearing tens of thousands of dollars per day, but they don't sleep. They don't rest. And we see it all the time now with the way that the internet works. Go ahead, go watch a podcast with Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or the head of Apple. See the bags under their eyes and the unrest, and they'll tell you when the right person asks, are you actually happy with like who you are? And Elon says it all the time. Not really. Yeah. Like, I don't want to, you don't want it. You don't want this.
Right.
There's that to get to that level of creativity, can drive insanity. So I'm glad that you found.
I found my lane. I'm trying to stay into that lane. I keep going here. I keep trying to.
We always do.
I keep trying to jump into the fast lane and go, like you just said. I want, you know what? So this book comes out Saturday. I would love for this book to sell 2,500 copies and hit the New York Times bestseller list. That would be amazing. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Am I going to lose sleep over that? No.
Right.
Me 10 years ago, I would have lost sleep over it. I would have said, I'm spending all this money about. So I look at everything long term. Right. I say to myself, is it worth it for me to leave the house today to come down and hang out with Chenza?
Yep. Smart.
And is it or is it not? If this was, hey, come down and hang out and drive to Tampa and come to my romance writers, I'm not going to do it.
You're valuing more of your
and it's valuing my time, because you can't put you can't put an hourly rate on what we're doing. I mean, you can't. People will try to do it. People will figure it out, or people will break down numbers.
Right.
You can't.
I agree with you. I don't think, unless I kind of, as always, the grass is always greener. I sometimes admire and wonder what it's like to be a lawyer or like a benchmark of time. Like, cause I have people call me like, how much for an hour consultation? I'm like, it's going to be free, man. Cause I have no idea. Just call me. Like, I'll help you out. Like, I don't know how to charge. It hasn't been done before, so I'm not going to try to do it. Right. Whereas like a lawyer and things of that nature, it's a benchmark amount of hours in this. But I think when you are, once again, I say this out of love, but like when you're a hopeless romantic artist, creator that is hard on themselves, and having imposter syndrome, it is hard to. I'd rather just know that, like, for instance, I still when I meet very commercialized people, like, well, what are you yielding per year? And I'm like, I mean this sincerely. I really don't know. Right. Not because it's so much I can't count it. I don't really want to know. Camille really does handle most of that. Yeah. And I know that bills are paid, this, that, and the other. And and there's food in the fridge. I'm sure if it wasn't, I would get a smack and be like, hey, we got them all on. But I don't want to almost know, because it keeps, but also too, there's a ceiling of like, well, you're never going to be able to compound, sell your business, this, that. I'm like, yeah, that's not why I got involved anyways. Right. I am my business, so I can't sell it. It's like you can't really sell.
I can't sell my IP.
Right. Exactly.
I guess I technically could, but
true.
Why would I?
Exactly. But with that being said, there's that finding that I think there's no irony that we didn't even used to talk about this to each other when we were there.
No.
It was probably just unspoken about. But now that we're comfortable with it, I think for those that are listening or those that have people in your space, ask them if they're okay. I find it so amazing and so refreshing when someone calls you and they actually go, is this a good time? Like, how rare is that in this era? And not from a customer perspective, that no one deserves. When you're in a business, no one's got to ask you that I'm talking about just friend to friend.
People,
they just call you and just like, hey, you got a second? Because it actually reminds you like, oh, maybe I don't. And maybe my situation isn't that important because you may be putting out a fire. So for those that are out there, ask people, because back then, if you would have asked Armand and I don't know if I would have had the vulnerability then 10 plus years ago to do it, but I would have if it was the right person, if your motive was right. If you were just trying to gut check me, like, you rich bitch? And like, yes, I am. But if you were like, are you okay? I'd be like, no. I used to sleep with a yellow notepad next to my bed during that era. And I was a miserable person inside, not in public, but I was I was probably sleeping 2-3 hours back then. I used to have this yellow notepad, man, legal size.
I think we were in a lot of ways, we were both of that.
That's probably why we bonded so well. Cause I just remember like, this is never going to
you see the other broken person.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I'm going to mentally try to fix you because I can't fix myself.
Don't try working on me. I'm already. But that I look back on that now and and it's not even just because they're younger, but someone younger in the creativity realm and trying to bring revenue into their household, don't put that yellow notepad away. Like, there's something to be said about if your creativity is have it accessible, but don't force yourself. I used to make myself like write every idea in the world, and I wanted to save the whales and I wanted to do all this stuff. And now I say it all the time. Now it's like 6 inches in front of your face. Just take care of that. And it's a compound effect. And then by doing that, your companion's happy. And by your companion being happy, the kids are happy. And then the lawn gets mowed. And it's just like, it's a trickle effect of keep it simple. We grow up with all these things. Isn't it funny though? Keep it simple, stupid. And and we grow up and we're like, oh, all that. Like I saw someone say something the other day and it resonated with me so well. And it was a guy like in our era that was like, I'm sick and tired of hearing the younger demographic, like hustle, 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 hustle. He goes, that's what's wrong with all you idiots. Sleep. Like, not everything has to bring in $1. You got people like, I'm going to record myself when I sleep and I'm going to Twitch that. I'm like, fine. But when are you going to do you? And it was hard. And these younger guys, I think, once again, irregardless of statistically young, but young in the bringing in money digitally, they are just they're like, oh, I'm going to record this and do what is that acronym, ASMR or whatever they're doing now? Have you seen that? Where they're like tapping things. It's like, before you know it, they're not even looking at their life. They're not slowing down enough.
Well, look at the woman who was on 90 Day Fiance who was selling her farts in a jar.
I heard of this. I didn't know she was doing this.
So she made like $100,000 or
Unbelievable.
something by farting into jar and selling it to obviously strange weird dudes. And I guess because she was doing it so much, she was hospitalized a couple weeks ago.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
She farted herself to sickness.
So now she's doing like NFTs or something for it.
But see, like, where does it end? So I mean, like, once you start to bring in revenue by means of like you're selling you know, like there's something to be said. Like I know the grass is always greener, but I look at people that actually have products now and I'm like, oh, it must be nice. Like I gotta be me. I have to be on the phone. I have to this. Whereas like, here you go. Here's your website stuff. You know what I mean? Like, thanks. Versus, but then again, the woebegones of product and this and that. But I think the moral of the story that I've loved, and I'm so happy to hear that you're doing it and we're doing it at the same time in this era, is that rest. Now, when I have people that maybe don't have a good motive and they want to they're like gut checking me, the commercialized people. They're like, oh, so what's your definition of success? And where does your fourth quarter look like? I go, rest. Because no matter how rich we get, I just want to use it. I want to be able to have the opportunity of health. And here we are. It's fleeting. It's really happening. It's crazy. We were saying about my brain's working, but my fingers aren't. It's like me at the soccer fields. I'm like, in soccer years, I'm 180 years old now. And I'm like, I see what I want to do. I can, but my body's like, bro, You ain't running this pitch that fast. But man, I love you.
I think growing up too, I saw my dad, my mom stayed at home with me and my brother, and my dad worked his ass off. He worked for the telephone company in Jersey for 30 years, and he came out of Vietnam.
Wow.
So like literally on a Thursday, came out of Vietnam. On Monday, he started
going to work.
He started work, and he worked that one job for 30 years. But he was smart because my grandfather, his father, worked basically till the day he died, and he's like in his 60s, and my dad said, I don't want to do that. So they scrimped and saved, and on my dad's 50th birthday, he retired from the phone company. And so he's been retired, 20 something years now. But as a kid, you grew up and you're like, wow, my dad and all of our dads are all out there busting their asses and making this work. And you think, okay, that's the work ethic that you need to be successful. Right. And you see dad on a Saturday or Sunday morning or whatever. And to get out of that mindset is really, it's really hard to do. I mean, there are days where on a Sunday, we have nothing to do, so she'll sleep in and I'll get up and I'm working, and then I have to say, I can't.
Why am I doing this?
It's 1:00 in the afternoon now, and she's up and she's moving around, and we're talking about what are we doing for lunch today. I can't do this for another 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
And that's what I would do. I would basically I would kill my entire Sunday, and she would be watching Hallmark
her day
movies.
off is being whacked.
Right. Yeah. And so it was really tough. And again, the money is not a part of the equation anymore, which is great.
Right.
It allows me to do what I want to do. She loves her job.
Right.
Absolutely loves it. And so that's kind of what it is. It wasn't a joke. It's a joke now. It used to be, how much money do I need to make for you to retire? How much money do I need to make for you to basically
quit your job,
work for me, and do all the, the money part and all the other stuff? And she said, there is an amount, because I love my job.
Wow.
I've been here for 15 years, and this is what I'm going to do till I retire. She's like, now, if you want to make a lot of money, because we have a 5-year plan to buy out in Callahan up there, 12 acres, and build another house, a bigger house, and put smaller houses on it for guests and different family, and want to do our own little compound up there. And she's like, this is the amount we need to make that dream work. So every dime you make, we skim off of yours. We throw that in the bank, and we throw that in the bank. We throw that in the bank. And so it used to be like this focus for me of, okay, so I need $1.6 million for this dream to come true. And I'm like, I don't want to do this for the next 5 or 10 years and be miserable doing it. And go, oh, cool. Hey, good news. We built our compound. Bad news. You had a heart attack 3 years ago and you can't use it.
Yep. So,
I mean, you put that in perspective. I'm 52. I'm very old 52, where I'm starting to look at things. And my dad busts my chops all the time. He's like, why are you working so hard? Right. He's like, I killed myself till I was 50. He says it was good because we are now, but he's like, you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
And that's what it is. I'm overweight. I'm obese, and I don't do the things that I should.
So he's concerned. He's dropping some wisdom on you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My dad's like, you look worse than I do, and I'm 72 and you're 52. And he's right. I mean, I have a Fitbit. Do I use it every day? No.
Right.
Should I use it every day? Yes. And those are the little things that I'm still struggling with.
Right.
And adding to, because I know when right before COVID, I did keto for like 4 months, and I knew that's not a life thing.
Right.
But I dropped like 30 something pounds, and I felt great. And I was walking 10,000 steps a day, and I'm chasing my wife around the living room. Hey, I know this ain't gonna last, so get in that bedroom kind of thing. And then once we hit COVID, it was like boom, I gained twice as much back. So it's still a work in progress.
Right.
I'm in mentally the best.
You seem in great headspace, man.
I've ever been.
Yeah.
and it's all just like you said. It's all here. You know, it's all right there, and I'm having a great time doing it, and just doing different things, and not doing everything is related to writing. Everything is related to the job.
Right. Well, it's tough. You've learned this by your own pain, but staying in your lane it's hard to do. It really is hard to do. And I think it doesn't just correlate with work. It's just life, you know, like, you know, a family member calls you and says, you know, Uncle Bob his car broke down. You're like, well, he got to figure it out. I don't know what to tell you. I told him to get the new car 3 years ago when it wasn't working. Like, you can't save the world of AIDS. You're not going to save the whales, nothing. And I'm not trying to be anticlimactic and like cynical out here, but let's do what you can do in your own backyard. You want to send some money to some you want to contribute to some things, go for it, people. But listen, if, in my opinion, that's keeping my fruits yielding in my backyard, so to speak, is when my homework's done, that's when I play.
Right.
If my bills are paid, that's when I help. I think we have this ass backwards bred into us as that high fructose corn syrup way of living, like our parents, like work, retire, die.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way. Now, I'm also not doing the whole I'm doing me movement, because there seems to be this lack of empathy and care in general. Like, you don't have to cut people in line, and the guy behind you isn't going to kill you and have some crazy disease either. Be empathetic and be humans. You know, it's crazy. I watch the weirdest shit on YouTube because I don't like today's era of TV. So I'll watch back in the day. There's some reason keeps coming up. It was a show called Airline, and it was like Southwest, but it was like a documentary where they basically just filmed people boarding airplanes. It was before reality TV got fake. And this realism about it, what I love most about the show, and my wife's probably going crazy because I'm watching it so much, it was just on because it doesn't require mind. It's just there, is the intimacy of humans. They're like this. They're like talking to each other at the airport gate, yelling at each other, like, honey, it's going to be okay. And we were only 2-3 years into this new realm of like, I'm going to die if I get too close to you. I miss that, like, just being touched, to tell where the peanut butter is at Publix.
Right.
I don't know why, but I miss that. I miss the personability. I miss the simplistic way of being able to handle humans with love. And I watch these things now, and I miss that era of humans engaging with each other, and the phone. And we're all guilty of it. We're making a lifestyle off of the internet. I mean, hence even the show. But being able to live in the moment. And I think, honestly, Armand, thank God, I say it now, and the newer generations are probably like, haha, that's why you're not selling $250,000 a day. It's like, I don't want to be in the metaverse, you know, like I want to use it to my advantage.
Right.
And I'm already servicing some people to get into it, but I don't want to be in. I'm not going into the matrix. I want out. And it's going to become more, I think we're blessed to be in this era, because soon, in the next 50 years, which we won't be here, thank God. I say that not to be cynical, but it's just, if you're not in it, you're not selling. This show would be, if you're not in the metaverse doing a podcast, we're already behind. Like, it's already happening.
Yeah.
You know, Justin Bieber having his concert. I haven't been to a concert in the metaverse of you, loser. You know, so like, we're already boomers. But I'm happy, and it makes me so. For those that don't listen to this show or maybe hearing it for the first time, this legitimately is one of those guests that they're not only a guest, but they're a dear friend of me, and I love you very much. And it's good to catch up and to hear. I appreciate you being vulnerable, because my show isn't just about, and you knew this, but those that maybe listen, this isn't about what you do and the business and how it's what you've done to get here, and it's tough.
And we've both come up together in this, which I think is cool. We both, I guess, sitting here now talking about this, we were kind of in the same space the whole way without talking about it. Like,
we never talked about it.
We never sat at Kokomo's and did the
woe is me.
Woe is me. Hey, this is my, I'm depressed today. And you go, I'm depressed today. We never did any of that. We just were nice to each other.
Yep.
We just shared a meal together. We just joked around, and we were just normal human beings to each other. And I think that's the cool part.
It's probably what created this bond. It was genuinely just another thing I've been saying more recently than not in my adulting world now is, I want people. I don't need people.
Right.
right? Like we never needed each other. It wasn't like, oh God, where's Armand? I'm not going to eat today. He didn't bring my money.
Yeah.
It was a complimentary. It was like just once again, just wanting each other and appreciating each other and not.
Well, there wasn't an agenda.
Boom.
You know what I mean? There was never with David Royal, with
Right.
you, there was never that agenda of, and there were people surrounding us that there was an agenda.
A lot more of those than us.
Yeah. And they ruined friendships and relationships and everything else. But then I look back and I go, was that person really my friend if this other person could get between us?
You're right.
You know what I mean? If things didn't go their way and they walked away from, was it really a friendship?
Yeah.
And there was agendas there. And growing up now, I don't do that. I don't have a ton of friends. I don't have people that come over all the time. You know,
right.
I get mad when my wife goes, "Hey, certain people are coming over." I'm like,
ugh, I got to put clothes on.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want people in my house.
Yeah.
I'm always like Thanksgiving. We did it we've done the last couple of years at our house, and it's mostly her family. My daughter will come. My son will come. And there's like 30 something people in the house. And I'll sit in the corner. Like, I don't want to be in the middle.
Too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Like I'll have a panic attack.
Right.
And I also don't want to be the center.
Yeah.
I also don't want to talk to
entertain.
And it's not even like I don't like.
I know what you mean. I'm
over there.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sitting in the corner and you, it's like The Godfather. You want to talk, you come over and you sit down with me. I'm not coming to you.
Right.
You know, and those things, like she'll have dinner parties and whatnot, and she knows I hate it.
Well, you know, I said something because I've been getting some whiplash over the last handful of years as I've cultivated a very solitary lifestyle. And even though I'm branded as the guy who's out every single day, I'm really not, but it looks like it. Yeah. And the irony is that being an extrovert, I'm so much of an introvert, and some of those that are affected the most negatively are family. And I know there's a little bit of whiplash. And I remember through a moment of, I came up with this through just prayer and my own turmoil in my brains. And that was, love me alone, you know, and like you and I are definitions of that. And I know it's harder when it's an immediate family member, but when I say that slogan, it's meaning like, it's just like the people that I meet now, whether they're acquaintance or 10, 20-year friendships, I don't need, if you don't call me for 5 years, I'm not going to, the first call in 5 years isn't going to be, where the fuck have you been? Right? Or we should do this more often. It's like, we're doing it now. Right. So I've tried to treat, you know, once again, another cliche statement that we said since we were in grade school, treat people the way you want to be treated. It's the same people, unfortunately, and I'm no better than anyone else, but it's the same people that seem to have it in their dialogue to, you know, F him, F that, F this. And by the way, I'm that. And where have you been? And they're like, no one hangs out with me. Right. And you go, did you just, right. Did you just hear what you just, is this how do you want to hang out with you? Yeah. Because I've also come to the position where not everyone is going to like you. It's okay. And it's hard being a flamboyant guy that wants the world to, you know, no, it's not going to work that way. And I've realized being happy with a little bit, you know, and what you do with a little bit, you're going to do with a lot. But I think it's beautiful that we're on the same wavelength, but it doesn't mean that we're better. It just means that we're resting. Right. And however you guys vibe out there, no matter who it is, it's just about resting. And I think that's what's so fleeting. The number one thing I meet with people, it's my favorite question when I'm at whether it's acquaintance at a bar or and they're really, we've moved past today's a beautiful day, is, are you really resting? Not because I'm going to fix you, but I want to learn, are you resting more than me? Because if you are, I want to find out how you got there. Right. Is it by means of prayer or great companionship or whatever it is? But it's a fleeting thing, man. I think more and more people are, and like your vulnerability today, Armand, is so, it's refreshing because it doesn't stick. It's not like tiles on the floor where you put them in and they're good. Well, it's a reminder every day to not that slippery slope.
I think one of the parts for any is to remind yourself to be true with yourself and go, you know what, I'm not. Stuff has happened in my past. Stuff has happened in my head. Something, the DNA I can't control. The depression, I can't control these things. But you understand that they're there. Right. You don't for years and years, you try to ignore all that.
Right.
You know, and I think for me, that's a big part. There's days I do not want to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
There's days that I'll lay there. If my wife goes to work early and she doesn't wake me up, I wake up and it's like 12:30. And I'm like, I'm only getting up because I got to go to the bathroom. You know, I'm like, I'm going back to, I want to go back to bed, but I'm like, I can't, I got to.
Right.
Because I'm, for me, and I know it's not her, it's me. I don't want her to come home at 6 o'clock and go, "What'd you do today?" And I'll say,
I went pee.
Yeah, I peed twice, but otherwise, you know, I'm really hungry because I couldn't get out of bed today.
Right.
I don't want to explain that to her, and she would understand it. She understands, unfortunately, how my mind works a lot of the time. She understands. We've had that conversation of, why don't you take lithium? Why don't you take this pill and this pill? And I said, I've done that. I showed her a picture of me. I was at an event somewhere, and she didn't recognize me.
Wow.
I'm so glassy-eyed. I have this stupid grin on my face.
Just a mess.
And I'm like, I'm not drunk. This is me on pills. This is me on meds. I said, it doesn't work. And I can't write a word. I said, I did that like 2 years. I lost 2 years of my life.
Wow.
Of not being able to be creative and literally sitting mindless and staring at the television every night after working 80 hours a week. I said, it was.
Dude, I'm mad.
Awful.
I know everyone out there. There's a lot of people that need to be on things to help them because of chemical imbalance or whatever it is, and my heart goes out. But I have nothing but admiration for you as a human, that you are able to deal with something as severe as
Right.
and not run. But once again, you're saying something so beautiful. You're aware of it. You're not addressing it.
Right.
You know how to handle it. You know what to do, what not to do. You know you're being an idiot if you stay in bed all day. Right. That clinically you're gonna be more depressed and more of this.
Right.
So it's tough, and that's what I learned myself, is that I may have a breakout. It's just like anything else. You may have a breakout book. I may have a breakout soccer game today. Doesn't mean Wednesday it's going to happen again. Right. You know, I got to do it again if it's important to you.
Right.
And I think it's great that you're making that cognitive, like, I got to do this. And once again, in 2 seconds, it's all going to be over.
Right.
I've been saying that a lot now. It's like life just the 10-year younger version of me 10 years ago, everything was so serious.
Yeah.
Everything is serious. If you don't do it, everything serious. And it's not. It really, your health is serious.
You catch that. I think the problem too with us 10 years ago is we at times we caught that lightning in the bottle.
Yeah.
Even a small little part of that. And we're like this is every Wednesday. And if it's not next Wednesday, if I don't do this next Wednesday, then
I'm a failure.
Then now I have to do something completely different, completely stupid, because I can't live long term. I can't look at my career as, this book comes out Saturday, but that doesn't mean Saturday I need 2,500 sales for me to feel like I'm not a failure.
Right.
You know, if I get 25 sales, but if I get 25 sales for 100 days, there's, you know what I mean? You see,
right.
You got to look at everything long term, and you take these little moments.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. I think for me, the thing was to still appreciate when I have that big day, to still appreciate, but not dwell on it.
That's your only success.
That's right.
Dude, it's funny because you're saying this and I'm like having a trip, because yesterday I was met with some adulting issues with some adulting issues, and there were two catastrophic situations going on. Nothing too scary, but just with the dogs, actually. So both the dogs had something going on, and we had to get them looked at and blah, 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 blah. But they could be very draining and wearing, and like I'm trying to not let it be debilitating, etc. Point is, actually, no one even knows this in my family. No one knows this as a friend. And I'm still not going to go into the specifics of it, because I've noticed too, this adulting thing, A, no one really gives a fuck. And B, the less you give it life, in my opinion, the more it doesn't become part of like, so I didn't give it more life than what needed to get done. And we got one out of the two got really great situations right now. And I try to remind myself, and I even told Camille yesterday, like, let's just relish in these.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you don't, if my goal was only if it had to be perfect, which I'm so OCD, and I think every human is, You can't even say that word without trying to get prescribed. So it's okay to want perfection. That's what Coca-Cola taught us. Yeah. Everything's perfect. And we were raised that way. Right. And it's not getting any better. If you're not the most perfect, sexy, amazing, shiniest creature in the world, and you're not putting on Instagram, you're a loser. So I'm trying to realize that it's okay not to be okay. And the little greatness is the things that we take for granted so fast that once again, we grow up with the sun in the sky, the breath in your lungs. If you can even walk, that alone, how crazy of a day it can be. And I'm not trying to be no self-help fucking Gandhi shit online. Like, I get it. We all hear it all day, but remind yourself. And it's tough, man. And I'm glad that we're on that. Like, you just hit me with the little things. Yeah. The little steps that are, like you said, you get the 25 sales, pop open a champagne and relax and relish in that moment because.
And enjoy the little things is the one that always gets me. The other couple weeks ago, my wife made baked ziti. That's like my favorite. And even though she's not Italian, my mother's not Italian either. She makes it so well. I know my mom's not watching, but she makes it better than me, Mom. Yeah, I mean, it's that good. And like that's my meal. And I remember just sitting there, and just closing my eyes for a second, and going, it doesn't get any better than this. Yeah, and you don't want it to get any better than this. Like, you enjoy, just live in that moment because it's your now. It makes me happy. Like, I am happy at this moment eating this bite of baked ziti. And that's it's not I am happy this moment because
I know what you mean.
$1 million just dropped into my bank account or something, or I've just busted my ass to do some of that because my wife makes phenomenal baked ziti. And that's, for me, like, those are the moments you string along. Yes. I mean, life is crap. I mean, you're right. Life is hard. Life is crap. I wish, we're all told as kids, stop growing up, slow down, enjoy being a kid, blah, blah. We're like, screw that. We want to be adults. And then we get here and we're like, oh, holy crap. Yep.
I want to go back.
I want to be 15 again. Yep. And I want to be 15 and find, your first Playboy magazine kind of thing. Like, I want those excitement things. Yep. I want to be 12 years old and read Dean Koontz again. Yes. I want to be 12 years old and my buddy Eric played Iron Maiden Number of the Beast album for me. And I was like, oh, this is the greatest.
My life has meaning.
Like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I look back at that, 1982 to now, and I go, all this music that I listen to and I write about and I do is all from that one needle hitting the Number of the Beast from here. And it's like those moments that you don't ever think about because you're so involved in
the next one
right here. Yep. You're doing a podcast and you're looking at numbers. Oh my! Yep. I only had 2,200 people looked at this episode. Yep. What was 2,500 last week? What did I do wrong? Well, you didn't do anything wrong. 300 people got busy with life, and eventually they'll come around and they'll watch your show.
I love this, man. I just watched a movie with who did Hannibal? Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins, and the other actors are no names because they were kids. But the premise of the movie, I think it's called Heart of Atlantis. The title has zero application of the movie. It's one of those, but it's old, which I love. So it's just, and Anthony Hopkins is one of my go-tos. And the other day I Googled like movies with Anthony Hopkins, and I had never heard of it, and it was rated pretty high. So we watched it. The whole premise is, and I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but the whole premise is him moving into a house that has a boys being raised by a single mother, so the mom's never home, and he's like a David Royale to this boy, and it's just mind-boggling because the whole movie he keeps bringing the attention to this boy to slow down. Of course, he's this little boy, wants the best bike, right? And then he wants this and he wants that, and Anthony, in his Anthony way, is this so cool, calm, and somewhat trippy way of like, slow down, kiss the girl. You're going to talk. And he says something in the movie that gets said like 10 times. It gives me the goosebumps just thinking about it. But it's these moments now are going to be the moments you talk about for the rest of your life. Right. This is what you just said. Yeah. It's crazy. And it had to do with one of the big monumental movements is this little boy. It's like a Wonder Years moment where he gets the girl and he kisses her on the Ferris wheel. And it's funny. You look back on those are the moments you talk about. Hearing your first song, your first favorite band, your first kiss. We can say them without even, we want to say them. Like we want to talk about them. That trying to emulate that. He says something else beautiful in the movie and he goes, You ever notice how, because he narrates it a lot, so it's just him talking. He says, when you're a kid, a day lasted a year. I'm trying to go back to that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my day be like, I say it growing up. Remember, like, you get out of school from the hours of 3, 4, 5 to 9, felt like I could get to Africa and back. I'll do the round trip. I'll take the red eye. Like, your parents say be home by nightfall. That's plenty of time.
Oh yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Let's
basically
go play football and kickball
and do dinner. And now we look at it as an adults, and it's like, hey, you want to grab a bite? And let's, it's 1 o'clock now. I'm like, oh, I got to be somewhere at 6. It's like, oh, yeah, it's those 5 hours. But we do it. We're all guilty of that. Yeah. Like, we need days to plan a rendezvous.
I know my father-in-law is not going to listen. My father-in-law is a great man. I like him a lot, but he is in his late 70s, and all of his stories, and I joke, my wife yells at me all the time, but every story starts with 1965 Ishmir Turkey. Everyone. Story. And I laugh and I say to her, if you didn't know him, if you just went out and talked, and he tells you the same story over and over and over, you would not think he had kids, because he doesn't talk about you or your sister.
Wow.
All he talks about is his 4 years in the military. And he wasn't even at war or anything. So he was like, he went to Turkey, he went to England, he went and met all these great people. And he's telling all these stories as if it happened yesterday. 1965, Ishmir, Turkey. Every story starts with that. And I laugh and I say, I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
I have a ton of stories. I love when people come over and tell them this story, tell them this story. I have a billion stories I can tell you. I don't want to repeat my stories, and I don't want stories that only happened in 1988. Right. I want to still have, this is what happened to us last week. Hey, we went here. This is what, and I think that's part of it too. The memory of what you've done is great, but remember to keep having those memories too. And I think that's the part of it. Cause like whenever her sister's around, I always just go 1965 Ishmael Turkey. And she's like, oh my God.
Don't even.
She's like, oh, stop with that. So that's kind of, that's, you try to have those moments and those memories, and they're good stories.
Right.
And whether they turn up in one of my books, which a lot of times they do, or it's just, you bring something up and I go, I got a story for you. But not in an obnoxious way. I'm not the guy sitting in the middle of the room.
Listen to me.
I'm sitting in the corner, but if we're having a conversation about something, I'll go, let me tell you a story. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you something that has
correlates
happened that correlates with what you're saying, or if you're asking questions about it or whatever. Or my wife will say, tell them the story when we went to Savannah. Tell them that story. Because she's talking to somebody and it reminds her of something that we've done. So I think that's important too, is just to, like we keep saying, man, just live your life the best you can. There's no bar. There's no that we have to have X number of dollars. Mm-hmm. There's none of that. And I think that's I feel like I'm about 65 to 70% of where I want to be mentally right now. And I'm again with the career at 12 years old. If you had said to me, "Hey, dude, it's going to take you till you're in your mid 40s, but you will be a full-time author and you will be able to do that," I would have been like, "All right, I'll." But you're going to give me from 12 to 45 to have a shitty life, and not even really a shit.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
In my mind, it's
the turmoil.
The turmoil. You know what? I'm there. I'll take it.
It's funny that you just said that, because I'm putting myself in that position. And from the ages, from right out of high school, if not in it, but everyone I think is guilty in high school who doesn't hate their lost adolescences. What am I going to do? I'm this, I'm that. But from graduating high school till 25, I was turmoil. My life, when I cover my time of what I did, people are like, oh my God, must have been nice. I would love to. And I'm like, it doesn't, by me speaking about it, it's almost like saying I worked on a cruise ship. Like, I know, being in the hospitality industry, your life is horrible. And I say that out of love for them. Like, it's tough. Yeah. I know the quarters you're sleeping in. I know you got to be on. But to the layman person, it's like, oh man, you get to see so much clear through water and you can see dolphins. Like, no.
Chicks walk around in bikinis all day. And,
that wears off real quick. But when I look back at those, I almost look now. It's like when I went through my first real injury as playing soccer, I wouldn't change it now. I wouldn't change it because it created such a more appreciation and humbleness of what I do have. Right. And sometimes I'm not into the whole, I try to steer away from the, like everything happens for a reason and God did that. Or I try to more, life is life. You drive a car, you get a flat tire. I don't think it's because you killed somebody. Right. I don't believe in that. I think just by consequence of being in the world and there being sand spurs, you're going to step on them. There's a purpose for them, but they hurt. And I think it's amazing that here we are. It's just two human beings trying to figure it out. And I said this in the video the other day, and I really mean it. No one has any idea what the fuck they're doing. You've talked to him. I've talked to him. It comes with time and exposure, but I've talked to the most lucrative folk in all the world. I've talked to the most broken, and both can be miserable. Yeah. Both can be happy, but it's all about a matter of mindset. And the irony is that most of the ones that don't have it are the happiest. You go to any country that doesn't have most of the inundation of what we have, they're happy because they don't know they're missing on anything. Right, we're the ones that, and I think it's great to have things. I think it's great to know that there's Mars and this and that. But when you don't know that they exist, ignorance is truly bliss. And it's okay not to have everything that you're trying to have in this moment because you'll get it. But here's what's crazy too, and this. Look at how far we've come, and there's no irony that we did it kind of at the same time. If we would look back on it now and know what we have now, and if we didn't have the health that we had and the mobility that we have, we wouldn't want it. So I'm glad that we're where we're at now, have our mobility, have our health, have companionship, because even that alone, the lack of companionship is big out there. You can meet the richest, most successful people in the world, and they're alone. And thank God that we're not in a position where we're Scrooge McDuck sitting on billions of coins with just you to deal with it. Right. But I love you, man. I'm proud of you. I say that as a peer of yours. Like I think it's just amazing where your headspace is too, that you're executing peace through life is crap. Right. But I love your mindset too, because a lot of other people, they talk about like life is, no, it's not. It's really hard. Yeah. And it's not going to get easier.
And it's a daily struggle.
Yep.
Even just you sitting here all day building a website, there's going to be conflict. Right. There's going to be, whether it's, I forgot to take out the chicken and my wife's going to kill me tonight, or, the dog just shit on the rug. Yes. You know what I mean? There's all of those things. And then there's the really good things where you look up and you go, I made $250 on something or whatever. Something magic just happened. Right. Or my wife sent me a message that she loves me. Just all of that put together, but it's that constant flow of the good, the bad, and the indifferent neutral.
Well, now I know how to get to your heart. Is that big? Your Space Jam is big, ZD. Yeah. When you were talking about it, I could taste it. But it's slowing. I had that on Sunday. It was a day. It got beautiful out. See all the positivity we brought. See how beautiful it got out there, people. If you're in Flagler Beach, it's a beautiful day. Probably a little chilly, but enjoy your day. That Sunday, this past Sunday, I came home from soccer. I was by myself. Came home, got to Oceanside, and I was on the deck, and I'm like, this is my life. And I got a list like this, just like anyone else's, all the bullshit, the chicken, the dog shit. I got it all, people. Right. So don't think it's like I'm sitting there going like, got it. But I slowed time down, and really, no joke, Sunday lasted like 2 days for me mentally. It was just one of those days where I felt like I did a million things. And by the time the sun was even setting, I was like, oh my God, I just had like a week in one day. And I think it's like as a kid, it happens inadvertently and like involuntary. You don't have to say, I'm going to slow time down. Right, yeah. I don't want it's as an adult, we're so programmed that tomorrow at noon, I got the meeting and it's there in 2 seconds. Right. Whereas like I just slowed time, and I had a big ZD moment this past Sunday. And I'm going to steal that from you. That's going to be my Space Jam. It's like, you ever heard someone say that before? What's your Space Jam? But man, I had a kid walk by the beach the other day, and he had a little Space Jam shirt on. I was like, it's coming back. LeBron brought it back. Yeah. But look, I think we did it. Look, 1:30.
Wow.
Yeah. Flew. We got to make sure David listens to this.
Yeah.
Captain, I love you. For those at the end, let's recap. You got when's the next book coming out?
This Saturday,
okay,
the 15th. It's called Shakedown. It's the first book in the First Coast thriller series.
Okay. And you got the website. We got that coming.
We got that
and
being played
for
with now.
For those that want to get you most of you have your Amazon. All your books are on Amazon.
Most everything's on Amazon. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, look, man. Anything else we want to cover? Did we do it?
I think we did it, man. I think we did that and more.
I love you.
Love you too, man.
Bam. We didn't.